Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, streaming, and all that sorts of good stuff. And he is, of course, the High Emperor of the Airways, is the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
Well, you know, here from my high perch as the High Emperor, I'm looking down on all of you, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, don't we live in great times. How many hours till WandaVision, John?
I can't remember what day it is today. What day is it today?
Today is Tuesday.
So it's 48 plus 14, so 58, 62 hours?
I don't think I've talked as much about a television show maybe since ever. And
no.
I'm here for it, John.
This is the weird thing about WandaVision. I'm not saying it's the best TV show ever. It's not the best TV show ever, but there's something inherent about its DNA that just makes you want to talk about it. Like, I still think I prefer Mandalorian, but I didn't feel like I needed to talk about Mandalorian as much. It's like, even when I'm just around the house, like Ann and I are just like every day, we talk about WandaVision and we talk about what might happen. And that's a crazy sort of thing, but I'm sure some of you guys probably also know that feeling, and it is good to have you guys here. Listen, we've got a bunch of things that we're going to talk about here today. Of course, we break the show up into two parts. The first half of the show, we take some predetermined topics that we've got set up to talk about, and then in the second half of the show, we take your live questions. And how do we get your live questions on the show? Just go down into the description of this video and you'll see a tip link, or you can enter it in manually in a browser at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Once you get there, make sure you fill out your name part, because I want to make sure your name gets shout out and you're not just called anonymous. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show or the upcoming companion video, if it's reasonable. And of course, you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. Also, while you're here, why don't you take a second, if you haven't done so already, and click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to our YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on all the things that we've got going on around here. Okay, guys, with that down, let's get on to a couple of off the tops, shall we? And let's start with this off the top. You know, Rob, over the last number of years, I mean, they have really gotten things kind of back on course over at DC, but for a number of years, there was a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about all these different movies, right? All these different movies and projects that they were going to do and that they were going to have over at DC. And one by one, they all started to fall away and, you know, they never came to be. I mean, I think Flash is now starting to shoot, but that movie was supposed to be like out in theaters like 2 years ago.
Right.
But
no, come on, 10 years ago.
Yeah. But one of the projects that they talked about a while ago that caught some people's attention because of the uniqueness of it is Blue Beetle. Now, Blue Beetle was brought up a while ago, and Rob, you even remember there was some talk about Blue Beetle and Booster Gold maybe kind of doing like a buddy cop kind of thing, and that stopped being talked about. Nobody talked about that anymore, kind of fell away. But now we've actually got some movement, and that movement, as Zach Woodley sends in a super chat badge in the live chat, thank you, Zach, that movement comes in the form of the fact that they have actually now hired a director. Yes, they have indeed hired a director. And I will confess, it is a director that I am not familiar with, to be honest with you. I'm not familiar with, his name is Angel Manuel Soto. I am not personally familiar with his work, which is fine. But the main thing here is they have indeed now hired a writer. This is our first tangible bit of evidence that they are actually serious about doing a Blue Beetle movie. This comes to us from them, who writes, Charm City Kings director Angel Manuel Soto is set to direct Blue Beetle, DC Films and Warner Brothers' first superhero movie starring a Latino character. Individuals with knowledge of the project exclusively tell the rap. The screenplay is from Mexican-born writer Gareth Dunnett Alcocer, who wrote Universal's Scarface remake and Sony's Miss Bala. In DC Comics, Blue Beetle is a superhero alter ego used by 3 different heroes, but the film will focus on Mexican-American teenager Jaime Reyes, the third character to assume the Blue Beetle mantle. Rob, again, just because, and I feel bad that I'm not familiar with Angel's work. I'm sure we will become familiar with Angel's work in the near future, but really, the big thing here is they're moving forward with Blue Beetle. And this is interesting because Blue Beetle is a very interesting character. And he's a very different kind of character than what DC has really kind of done before. And I think this is really encouraging that they're kind of moving forward with this at this point. Now, again, attaching a director doesn't mean ultimate green light. I mean, there's still a chance this movie doesn't happen, but this is the first solid concrete thing we've seen of movement on this. I think this is a nice addition to the DC roster. Rob, you had a chance to take a look at this. What do you think about it?
I think it's great. You know, I'm a big fan all the way back to the mid-'80s run of Justice League, where they really started to develop the Blue Beetle Booster Gold bromance. And I always loved the Blue Beetle character. I've liked to see the evolution of the character. And I think, you know, in this day and age, this iteration of Blue Beetle, like Miles Morales doing Spider-Man, could be really great. And I think this sounds good. I mean, I'm definitely here for it. And I think it's a really great project. I hope it moves forward faster than The Flash did.
Of course, Flash had a lot of other little things kind of getting in its own way. But the question here is, guys, it looks like we finally got some movement on a Blue Beetle project. What do you guys think about this? Are you looking forward to it? Or maybe you're not all that familiar with Blue Beetle right now, or maybe you've been waiting for this for a long time. Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to one more off the top, shall we? And the next off the top is this. Rob, one of the guys I feel safe in saying has become kind of one of the most entertaining guys in Hollywood, from his on-camera work to his off-camera shenanigans, is Tom Holland. I just love this kid. He can dance. He's funny. He is totally fearless. Remember that dance video you and I watched where he was on the show and he did that dance off with Zendaya?
Yep.
I mean, the kid is completely fearless. He's got this huge, like really boisterous, almost like Dwayne Johnson kind of personality, like without the gravitas, if you will. But I love this kid. I think he's great. Well, anyway, lately and recently, he was out doing some promotion for his new film, Cherry. And during that promotion, he told a little bit of a story that I think is actually really interesting. Apparently, Tom Holland was very close to being Finn in Star Wars, the John Boyega character. And I found this fascinating. This is the story that he tells. He says the following. He says, I've had quite a few. I've read the wrong lines at the wrong auditions before. That I think is hilarious. I remember my audition for Star Wars. I was like 4 or 5 auditions in. That means he was close. When you're 4 or 5 auditions in, you're very close to getting the role. Anyway, I was like 4 or 5 auditions in, and I think I was auditioning for John Boyega's role. He can't even remember which role it was. I think it was for John Boyega's role. I remember doing this scene with this lady, bless her, and she was just a drone. So I was doing all of this like, we got to get back to the ship. And she was going bleep, blop, blop, bleep, blop. I just couldn't stop laughing. I found it so funny. And I felt really bad because she was trying really hard to be this convincing android or drone or whatever they're called. I just love what he says, or whatever. Real hardcore Star Wars fan here, folks. Real hardcore Star Wars fans. Anyway, he goes on and continues to says, I feel really bad for this lady. She's trying so hard to be a convincing android or drone or whatever they're called. Yeah, I obviously didn't get the part. That wasn't my best moment, which I think is absolutely hilarious. I think this, but Rob, here's the interesting thing. This story, and I think stories like this are really good to remind us of a couple of things. One, now granted, Tom Holland was not the name at that time that he is today, clearly. But it is a good reminder too that a lot of, I think, film fans, we just casually think, well, wait a minute, why doesn't that actor go and be in that movie? And why doesn't this actor go and be in that movie? Well, maybe they wanted to, but unless you're like A-list, a lot of famous actors still have to go out and read and audition for roles. Now, granted, Tom Holland wasn't a big deal at the time this happened, but it's a good reminder of that. Another good reminder of this situation reminds us of is that a lot of these studios, they remember people they liked, and they will often come back to those people later. Rob, you and I have talked many times about the Henry Cavill thing. Like before Henry Cavill finally got his shot to play Superman, He was the runner-up to play Superman in Superman Returns. He was the runner-up to be James Bond to Daniel Craig. It was down to Daniel Craig and Henry Cavill before he made it big. Now, of course, he did have a breakout role in The Tudors, but this is just a thing that studios, they know who the blue chip prospects are, and they know who the can't miss upcoming stars are, and they keep an eye on them. And even though he got close with Bond and didn't get it, and even though he got close to Superman and didn't get it, eventually he got it. They keep bringing him back because they remember him. And obviously, the folks over at Disney remember Tom Holland, and now he's our Spider-Man. But it's an interesting thing. Rob, you hear a story like this. What, if anything, are there any life lessons here for people? And what do you think just about the story itself in general?
Well, first of all, it's kind of adorable, like everything Tom Holland does. But I mean, I can understand that. Like, if you're an actor and you are trying your best to get a part, and we said, what, it's his 5th audition or something?
Yeah, 5th audition for it.
He's worked on his character and he's immersed himself in it. And you're acting. It's already hard enough to be in an audition for an actor. Sometimes you're working with a casting director who's throwing lines back to you that are totally monotone. It's not like you're working against another great actor. But if someone's going, beep, bop, boop, boop, doot, 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 like doing R2, like I can understand that. That would be an incredibly uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable place to be in. I also think it's sort of irresponsible for the producers or the casting people to put an actor in that position. I mean, there's plenty of R2-D2 toys on the market that make noises. So if you want somebody to act opposite a droid and it's their 5th audition, meaning 5 callbacks, that's a long way to make it in the casting sessions. Get an R2-D2 toy that can actually beep, because you know what that would do for an actor, being able to get into their character and deliver a performance. I mean, how hard can that be? So I would put this one, I know Tom Holland's putting it on himself. In this particular case, John, I absolve him of the responsibility of being unable to stop laughing.
I don't. You're an actor, man. You got to be able to get into any environment under any circumstances, and you got to deliver. And if you're an actor and you're put in that room, and I don't care if they have garbage trucks backing up and one of the lights kind of flickering on and off and some lady saying bleep, blop, blip, you got to deliver, man. You got to deliver. You got to show me, because you get on set, you never know what the environment's going to be. You got to be able to step in there and perform.
But audition is it's a different kind of an experience.
You got to see if they can handle it.
I don't know, man, because no one on set's going to be going beep, bop, boop, beep.
Hey, but there might be other distractions. There could be other things. You don't want another Christian Bale meltdown. But I'll tell you what, Rob, the thing that this does remind me a lot of is I've obviously had a lot of friends who are actors in LA. You and I both have a lot of friends who are actors. And I remember this one girl friend of mine. She worked so hard. Was getting acting jobs in Toronto, came down to LA, was literally doing like 3 auditions a day for years and never got one. And that's not an unusual situation for a lot of these performers. Right. I remember Sinead DeFries. I mean, everybody knows like what a superstar Sinead is, but I didn't know this, but she told me this one time, like when I cast her for AMC at the time, I was the first person ever to give her, I was the first time she ever got casted. I'm like, but you're a superstar. Like you're a superstar, but that's the thing. You get really talented people. And so literally hundreds of auditions and getting turned down. The type of testicular fortitude you need to have to be able to chase that kind of a dream and face that kind of rejection on a daily basis. And you got to, dude, there's been one time in my life, that I applied for a job that I didn't get. And it devastated me. I questioned my own value as a human being. I was emotionally distraught. I felt so dejected. And you got these actors who are hardcore, man, because they will go out and they will face that every day because they know they're going in for an audition against maybe 500 other people or 1,000 other people, and the chances for success are low. The chances for rejection are high. But I'm telling you, man, these actors, while we make fun of a lot of their a lot of their propensities. The reality is that these actors, they have an iron will about them to be able to go out and do that. Cause I don't think I could. I honestly don't think I could ever do that and face something where I get like rejection, like 3 times a day. I don't think I could handle it, but I guess the bigger the dream, the bigger the cliff you may fall off of. But anyway, that's just say I admire it. And I love that Tom Holland can tell that story these days and sell it with a smile. There's another reason why I love this kid. Anyway, guys, you hear about that. What do you think? What kind of Finn do you think he would have turned out being? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into our main topics today here, shall we? And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them. Whenever you come across a big topic, issue, or story that you think we should have as a main topic here on the John Campea Show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Angelo Mosconi, who writes, "Hi, John. Parks and Rec is one of my favorite shows of all time, and it's only slightly behind It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So yeah, I got really excited when I read in Variety that Jenny Slate and Charlie Day are doing a comedy together called I Want You Back. It sounds like a pretty straightforward rom-com, but with these two in it, I can't wait to watch it. Just wanted to know if you think this sounds any good." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, you guys know me. I absolutely love Parks and Rec. And Jenny Slate, who played John Ralphio's sister and Henry Winkler's daughter, that trio in that show was always fantastic. And I've always liked Charlie Day, although I've never really watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, to be honest with you. But I loved him in Horrible Bosses, and I like seeing him when he pops up in other things as well. So anyway, there is this new movie coming from Amazon Studios called I Want You Back. This is the rundown of it. From Variety, they write, "In the movie titled I Want You Back, Slate and Day will play 30-somethings," which is funny because I think Charlie Day is 45, but Slate and Day will play 30-somethings dumped by their respective partners and terrified that their shot at a fairy tale life, complete with marriage, kids, and houses in the suburbs, are over. With no prospects on the horizon and the thought of dying alone looming, they hatch a desperate plan to win back their exes who are already in new relationships. I'm going to go out on a big limb here. This is my big, bold prediction. I bet you they end up together at the end, Rob. I know that's I know that's a stretch. I know that's way out there. I bet you they're going to end up together. At any rate, I got to tell you, I love the sound. Yes, it does sound like your stereotypical rom-com fare, but guess what? Sometimes some straightforward rom-com, if you've got really good dialogue and if you've got some good performers doing it, there are a few things that can be as nice, lightheartedly entertaining as a good rom-com. And I know it's the cool thing to say, oh, rom-coms suck. No, really, a well-written, well-performed, charming rom-com can be really entertaining. And by the way, there's a couple of other interesting names. Gina Rodriguez is in this, who was like one of the hottest stars in the world for a while for Jane the Virgin. That show she had, Jane the Virgin. She's going to be one of the supporting characters in it. One of the guys from, what's it called again? The Good Place. My wife loved The Good Place, but one of the guys from The Good Place is going to be playing a supporting role in it. Anyway, I love these two. I think it sounds like, hey, again, standard rom-com fare, but I'm going to look forward to this. I think this is kind of neat sounding. Rob, you hear about this. What's your first reaction?
Oh, I love the idea, the premise. You know, I mean, I think it's something I totally could relate to, and I think a lot of other people can as well. You know, the idea that we all are promised this sort of fairy tale life that doesn't quite work out the way we want. And I just think it's funny. I still feel I'm seeking that fairy tale life, and I'm a lot older than mid-30s or whatever. But, you know, this sounds good. I like the cast a lot, and I'll watch this.
And by the way, Scott Eastwood is also in it. I forgot. So you had that guy from, I keep forgetting the guy's name, but the guy from Good Life or The Good Place, Scott Eastwood is also going to be in it. Who, damn, the older Scott Eastwood gets, man, the more and more he looks like his dad. Like he is like, he's always looked like his dad, but more and more, I mean, you just look at this dude, as he gets old, he's even got the same kind of scowl on his face. I don't know, he's looking more like him. Anyway, guys, I like the sounds of this. Question is, what do you think of the sounds of I Want You Back? Maybe rom-coms are just not your bag and you're not interested in it all, which is totally understandable. But maybe you're like me and this sounds kind of charming. What do you guys think? Jump down into the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2, shall we? And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Isaac Beebe, who writes, "Hey, John. Have you seen the rumors and reports going around that Mena Massoud is being looked at for or / has potentially been cast in the Ahsoka series as Ezra Bridger?" This, of course, is the main character from the Rebels Star Wars animated show. "I would never have thought of him for that role, but now that I think about it, that is great casting. Mena has struggled to find more work after he did in Aladdin. What are your thoughts on this?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, for those of you who don't remember, Mena Massoud played Aladdin in the movie Aladdin. A movie, by the way, that went on to make $1 billion at the box office. That movie went on to make $1 billion at the box office. It was really good, too. Completely not your stereotypical Guy Ritchie movie. Because you guys know I'm a big Guy Ritchie fan. I love Guy Ritchie. Yeah. But it was not his style. I thought it was a very strange choice, Rob, when Guy Ritchie was picked to direct Aladdin. Because it's just, I love Guy Ritchie, but that's not his style. He killed it. And Mena Massoud as Aladdin did a really good job. He wasn't the best part of the movie, but he did a really good job. So here you are, you're the title character of $1 billion movie, and he was having a really hard time finding any more roles after that, which is interesting. So let's go and look at this. This is the story that's kind of going around here. This comes to us from Geek Tyrant, who writes, "In a new video released by Kessel Run Transmissions, they announced that Aladdin star Mena Massoud and Disney has made a verbal agreement to play the live-action version of Ezra Bridger for Lucasfilm and that he will make his debut in the Ahsoka series. Lucasfilm and Disney have not confirmed this, but the report says that he is the frontrunner and that he is on the verge of signing on the dotted line. I just want to make this clear that this is just a rumor." Well, it should be pointed out that these are two contradictory statements. That they've already made a verbal agreement and that he is the front runner. Those are two contrary things. Like if you've already made a verbal agreement, you're not the front runner, you're in. But this is a story that started floating around about 3 days ago. And we did not cover it here on the show. I chose and opted not to talk about it on the show because it just sounded to me like another one of those things that, 1,000 of these rumors come up a day, maybe 2 or 3% turn out to be real. So we'll just wait to see if like the Hollywood Reporter or Variety or Entertainment Weekly report on it, just so then we know it's legit. So I decided to pass on the story. That being said, I can tell you without specifics that yesterday I had a conversation to the point that I now think this could be legit. It could be legit. I am not sitting here. Nobody run. John Campea confirms the rumor about. No, I'm not doing that. But I did have. I'm tweeting
it right now.
But I did have a conversation yesterday about this story that I had passed on a couple of days ago. That has now put me in a place of like, oh, okay, it could be. It might be. So let's talk about this for a second. Mena Massoud, again, I thought he did a terrific job in Aladdin. I thought he did a very, very good job in Aladdin. I thought he was crisp. He was funny. He kind of made the role his own. He was very good. Now, Oscar winning? No. Do I think he's, Timothée Chalamet? No. But I think he's very good. I got to tell you, when I think of Ezra Bridger, though, Rob, and I see his face, because remember, Ezra's going to be a bit older now. He's going to be older than he was at the end of Rebels. And I mean, if you're going for the physicality of it, he's a good match. I think he did a good job in Aladdin. movie he led had $1 billion. I'd like to see him do this. So again, I cannot confirm that this is legit. It's just that I've heard a couple things now that made me feel that there is a possibility this could be legit. So let's type hypothetically. I like this casting, Rob. Hypothetically, I like this casting. You hear about it. What do you think the chances of it being real are? And then theoretically speaking, how would you feel about Mena Massoud being the new Ezra Bridger?
Well, being that, he's in the Disney family, I think it makes sense. A lot of the time when you're dealing with studio casting people, they tend to go back to the same actors because they deliver for them and they know they're good. And putting him in a show like this, I think, is terrific casting. I think it's great. He looks the part. He's already proven that he can carry $1 billion franchise film. And why not? I like his look a great deal. I think that he looks like he could be a character in the Star Wars universe. And, I want to see this guy next to Ahsoka.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, this is all theoretical. But theoretical, I got to say, I kind of like it if it does turn out to be this way. And I'd like to see what else Mena Massoud can do outside of Aladdin. Question is, guys, you heard about this. Put the legitimacy of it aside for a second. That's still in question. But theoretically speaking, how would you guys feel about Mena Massoud taking on the role of Ezra Bridger? First of all, it should be also pointed out, Rob, it's never been confirmed that Ezra Bridger's even going to be in the Ahsoka series. Right. But I mean, we can kind of guess. But what do you guys think about this theoretically? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on now to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Thomas Levesque, who writes, "What's going on, John and crew? As someone who lives in New York City, really happy to hear that Governor Cuomo is allowing New York City theaters on March 5th, just in time for Raya and Godzilla vs. Kong. My question is, do you think films like Black Widow and Fast 9 will still have a chance to open up in May, or could they still get delayed? Thanks for answering my question, and let's hope summer movie season 2021 is saved." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Thomas. And yeah, this was a little bit of a surprise, but a welcome one nonetheless. News came out yesterday that they are going to, I believe in March, Rob, I believe they said in March, they are going to start permitting movie theaters to open up, certainly with some restrictions. Let's go over and take a look at what some of those restrictions are going to be. This comes to us from Variety, who writes, "After nearly a year of closures, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has given movie theaters in New York City permission to reopen at limited capacity starting on March 5th. During his daily press briefing, the Empire State Leader said cinemas in the city will be permitted to operate at 25% capacity with no more than 50 people. Moreover, other safety measures such as mask, social distancing, and heightened sanitizing measures will be required." Now, these are all things, Rob, that I have experienced. Of course, back when New Mutants came out, I made the drive to Las Vegas, went to an AMC theater there. They did a fantastic job. I as a person who's a little paranoid about the COVID stuff, I was very comfortable. Their precautions, their safety measures, their cleaning procedures. I felt really good being in that theater, and it was great. So it sounds like this will be a part of that. This, if you're a film fan, this is great news. It's still got to be taken with a grain of salt. It still has to be taken cautiously. But nonetheless, it is great news. I've been allowing myself, Rob, maybe foolishly, a little bit lately, to be feeling a little bit more optimistic. Today in California is day 40 of every day having fewer new COVID cases than the day before. We're on a 40-day streak. About a month and a half ago, we hit like 40,000 new cases a day. That dropped to like 35 to 30 to 20 to 15. We're now down to about 6, which 6,000 new cases a day is still 6,000 way too much, no doubt.
Yeah.
But we are 40 days now in a row. Rob, what I think happened, and I don't know this for sure, but I think when we hit that unbelievable spike of like 30, 40,000 just in California alone and nationwide, I think that woke a lot of people up.
Yeah.
And I think when we hit that 400, we've now passed 500,000 fatalities, but I think it woke a lot of people up. Take things more seriously. We're getting millions of people vaccinated per day now. Rob, I'll tell you what, Ann and I went to an outdoor shopping center a few months ago, and we were walking around, and maybe 3 out of every 10 people were wearing masks. Ann and I went to an outdoor shopping center this weekend because she needed to go and get something, and maybe 1 out of every 10 wasn't wearing one. It's just, I mean, that's just anecdotal, but it's just kind of a visual thing about how some people kind of change their things. And I don't think it's coincidental that now we're seeing numbers drop. So seeing numbers dropping, we need to see them drop faster. Immunization's rolling out. Now seeing New York is going to start opening things up. I hear Los Angeles is not going to be far behind as well in California, which I'm excited about. The question then becomes, does this mean that like this May release date for Black Widow, can it hit that May release date? Rob, I was just being optimistic, but I'm going to stay a little pessimistic on this one. I still think May is a little bit too early. I've been saying that for a while. I don't think it's far off, but I think May is too early. I'm still thinking, and I don't know this, no insider information here. I'm still thinking they bump Black Widow one more time. But I think when they bump it, it'll be like a 30 to 60 day bump. Not like a 4-month bump or an 8-month bump. I think it'll be like a 30 to 60 day bump. And Rob, you and I have always said, this is a situation that evolves and changes day by day. Things look promising right now. That could change 48 hours from now. But if things keep moving in this direction, I think it's possible they could release Black Widow in their May release date. We're just in February right now. I still think it's going to get one more bump. Rob, you're seeing this stuff. New York is going to open theaters again under certain restrictions. It looks like Los Angeles is not far behind. What do you think about this overall in general? And specifically when you look at upcoming films coming very soon, specifically something like Black Widow, what do you think this looks like for them?
Well, Cuomo is sort of under fire for this whole nursing home conduct during COVID. And I think
everybody wants some media distraction.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that here, but look, let's assume it's not a cynical way to distract the media. I'm optimistic about this. I mean, again, we're gonna have to open up sometime, and as long as social distancing practices and sanitary practices are observed, I think with people being vaccinated, I'm optimistic. I mean, maybe we might have a bit of a summer movie season. I certainly hope so. John, our movie theaters have been closed since March of last year in LA. And I can't believe that. I find that stunning to me that it's now been a year since I've been in a movie theater, a real year, a full-on year. And I want to see movie theaters open. I really want to go back to the movies. And I am optimistic, but like you, I think May is overly optimistic, but let's hope so. But remember, just because movie theaters are opening doesn't mean they can still throw out the next tentpole film in a theater, because they need enough theaters open. Obviously, theaters in China are open, and I want to make sure that theaters in Europe are open, and theaters. I can't go any longer without seeing Justice for Han, John. And I want to see it in a theater, man. I want to see No Time to Die. I want to see Black Widow. I want to see The Eternals. I want to see all these movies that I'm dying to see. I want to see Dune, John. Dune. The spice must flow in my local theater.
The spice must flow. I'll tell you what, though, too. Like, I've had some more pressing ones come up. I didn't give a crap about Godzilla versus Kong. But
oh, yeah.
I got to see that in a theater now. It's funny because Ray and I were talking the other day, and I think Ray and I have decided, first, the Godzilla vs. Kong thing, we're like, okay, we are going to drive to Vegas to go and see Godzilla, because I got to see that on the big screen. I just cannot see that on a effing television. I got to see that on the big screen. And then the Mortal Kombat trailer came out. And Ray's like, calls me, yeah, we got to go see Mortal Kombat on the big screen. And I was like, well, there we go. We've got 2 dates that we're going to, but maybe it looks like we may not have to drive to Vegas in March to do that. Maybe they'll be open here as well. And I'll tell you what, if they can do what they did so successfully in those theaters in Vegas with the procedures and the safety precautions, I'll be there. I'll be there. I don't live with my mother. Maybe if I did, I wouldn't do that. I've got some
Right.
friends of mine that, a married couple friend of mine that have their mom living with them right now. Then that would be irresponsible. But, hey, it's just me and Ann. So yeah, I think I'm going to go. Anyway, question here is, guys, what do you think about this? That finally, after a year, it looks like New York is, and LA may not be far behind, finally opening up the movie theaters again. What could that mean for some of the upcoming films? I still think it might be a little bit early, but we'll have to wait and see. Question is, guys, what do you think? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's now move on and start taking your live comments and questions. And once again, the way you get a live comment or question on the show, it's really simple. Simply use the tip link in the description of the video, or you can enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's reasonable. And of course, you'll be supporting the show at the same time. Okay. Of course, myself and Kimberly Kern did a big, long companion video yesterday. We got caught up on most of them. So let's now pick things up here. We're going to get started here today with one from Anthony MR, who tips in like $20. Thank you, Anthony, for supporting our channel on that level, man. And Anthony MR writes, I always love your pregame and prediction videos. Thank you so much. We are still in the early stages of Phase 4. Would you consider doing a video predicting the new Avengers lineup and new leader of the world, or new leader, or would you want to wait for more shows/movies to get a better idea? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, for those of you who didn't know this past week, you guys know Ann and I do our WandaVision spoiler video. Well, I had a few people ask that we say we should do a pre-show. So this past week, we actually did a pre-game show. So on Thursday, maybe 6 hours before WandaVision airs, we do a WandaVision pregame show where we just all hop on and talk about what we think is going to happen tonight on WandaVision. So that will, of course, be again this week. Once again, that'll be on Thursday afternoon, the WandaVision pregame show. I hope you guys will consider joining us. As far as doing a video on predicting what's the new Avengers lineup going to be and all that kind of stuff, Rob, I don't know about you. It's way too early to do that. Like it would...
Yeah.
It would literally just be pulling random theories out of your ass at this point. We have no idea what form and shape they're going to kind of be steering the MCU. We at least got to get a few properties in. Like, let's get WandaVision. Let's get Falcon and Winter Soldier. Let's get Black Widow. Maybe even Loki. Let's get a few of them in our pocket to kind of get a sense of where they're going to be steering the next Avengers thing. But so for me, Rob, I just think it's far too early to start guessing at that stuff. What about you?
Look, I agree with you. I think we have no clue or idea quite yet where this is all going, how they're going to approach it. I mean, dude, I'm still waiting for, like, the Eternals have supposedly been on Earth for thousands of years. Like, where have they been? I can't wait to see how this is all going to unfurl. They're introducing our friend Miss Rambeau. How is she going to play into all this? Is she going to be her character has been an Avenger before. Will she be joining the team? It seems like they're giving her a pretty big introduction over the course of this show. So who knows? Falcon and Winter Soldier. I can't wait, but I have no predictions yet.
All right, let's move on here. Next up, Jonathan writes, John, with the Snyder Cut getting an international release after much demand, do you think Warner Brothers really underestimated the demand because this was only set to release in the U.S. alone, right? Your thoughts on the escalating demand for the cut? I don't think there is an escalating demand for it. I think, listen, most of these types of movies do get, like, a lot of these movies will give in markets that they don't exist yet. Rob, you and I will often go back to... what was the CBS, Star Trek Discovery, right? On CBS All Access. When it was coming out on CBS All Access, what CBS did was, in the markets where CBS All Access was not yet available, they licensed it out in other ways so other people could still get and watch them. I'm not surprised at all that they're doing that for Snyder Cut. Of course you do that. I mean, you primarily want people to sign up for HBO Max to watch it. That's why you're putting it out. But there are countries where HBO Max does not exist yet, and there's an opportunity to make money off them there. I think it is a no-brainer. I mean, I remember when talk came out that it was only going to be that, and I told people, I said, no, don't worry. If you live in another market and that doesn't have HBO Max, they will find a way. Trust me, they want your money as much as every other studio does. They will find a way to give you the option to watch it since it's just not something that's available right now. This is more of an event thing. So, no, I'm not surprised they're doing this. It's kind of standard operating procedure. It's the way to do it. I don't think it has anything to do with surprisingly high demand. Again, it had 24 million views of its trailer in the first 24 hours. Cruella had 71 million views in its first 24 hours. So I don't think it's about unexpected demand. I think they knew there was going to be demand from it. I think they knew there's a hunger for it out there. And I don't think it's like a last second thing to make it available. I think they always were going to do that. I don't know, Rob, what do you think?
I think they were always going to do it too. I mean, yeah, they have to. And piracy, John, worldwide piracy. And I think it's great that this mandate that they've made a conscious effort to make sure the world delivers. They deliver the joy to the world, to all the boys and girls, joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea, joy to the Snyder Cut and me.
That's very poetic, Rob. Well said. Well said. All
well,
right.
It's Three Dog Night.
Yeah, I know.
Paraphrase them. What can I say?
Next up, James Lockman writes, "Aloha, John. It's been a while. I've missed writing into your show. It's always good to have you here, James. I've been going through some health issues. I hope you're coming out the other side of that. But I always watch your show, and it always puts a smile on my face and makes me laugh. I was wondering if you read Star Wars: Light of the Jedi. I think. Well, first of all, I am about halfway through now. I've been very slowly been getting through that. So what I did is I got the Audible book of it. And, I got to get in my 5 miles a day. But the thing is, I've been so busy. So what I was doing is that when I go out on my walks, I take it with me and I listen to it. But I have been falling behind, and I'm also trying to catch up on some podcasts. So I'm about halfway through. I am enjoying it quite a bit right now. I mean, it's not Lords of the Sith, and it's not, what's that one I love so much? Something Stars, not Falling Stars. I can't remember the one that's like one of my favorite Star Wars novels about it retells the story of the original trilogy from the perspective of the two kids. Do you guys remember the name of that? Lost Stars. Thank you, Nick. Nick in the live chat says Lost Stars. It's not quite as good as that, but it's really good so far, so I'm enjoying it. James Lockman also writes, "I think the last time I wrote into your show, movie theaters were still open. There was no pandemic, and the last movie I saw in theaters was 1917. I never thought I'd have feelings of withdrawal, but I'm going into a movie theater, but not going into a movie theater for this long did it." Oh, I agree, man. I still remember it was only 6 months for me. Like when I went out to go watch New Mutants in Vegas, it had been 5 or 6 months for me since I had been in a theater. And I'm accustomed to walking into a movie theater 3 to 4 times a week. And so I just couldn't believe the sense of joy I felt walking into that theater. Like I made a video about it and everything. It was absolutely crazy. I absolutely loved it. So I can relate, James, brother. I can relate. Absolutely. And I can tell you this, the feeling you're going to get when you walk back, whenever it's going to be, whether it's in a month or 3 months or 5 months, the feeling you're going to get when you walk back into a theater, all I can tell you for me was euphoric. Like I can't describe to you how amazing it felt for me 6 months ago to walk back into a theater. It was absolutely great. All right. Anyway, may we all be able to have that experience sooner rather than later. All right. Michael H. Jones writes, who chips in like $20. Thank you, Michael, who writes, "Hey, John, my AMC theater. So this weekend I went to see Nomadland on Friday and loved it. Then on Saturday went to see Judas and the Black Messiah and really liked it. It was a great weekend." Now, again, first of all, hats off to you, Michael, because these are both Nomadland you can watch on HBO. No, not on HBO. You can watch it on Hulu right now, is where you can go and watch Nomadland, which is kind of a front runner to win Best Picture right now. But another one that's in that race as well is Judas and the Black Messiah, which Ann and I finally watched the other night, also available online. But you did the right thing, sir. You had the option to see it the way it was meant to be seen in a movie theater, and you went and did that. Now, of course, I don't have that option here, and I wasn't about to drive to Vegas for either of those films, but good on you for that, and I'm glad you had that good time, man. Thanks for sharing that experience with us, Michael. Really appreciate it, man. All right, Sir Ivan Bennett writes, one of two. "Hey, John, all this talk about mutants being an allegory for race relations is all well and good, but originally mutants were a byproduct of nuclear and environmental radiation, like all heroes were in the 60s. In fact, this is why they were called children of the atom. Stan Lee originally wanted to find an easier way to give heroes powers and decided to have them born with them as a result of genetic mutation. Later, writers like Len Wein and Claremont used the racial allegory angle And Stan co-signed it, and that became part of his talking points thereafter. But if you actually read the early issues, there isn't much of a racial allegory. Check out Rolling Stone interviews with Stan in 2018. He admits he didn't do it consciously. Yeah, that's all true. That's all true. But because it started out as one thing, it very quickly became something else. Like if you go back to the earliest Superman comics, he didn't fly. Superman didn't fly. But when you think of Superman, you think of the man who flies. You're going to believe, Rob, that a man can fly. Right? That's what it became. Like, yeah, the original inception, the original concept of it kind of was this, but that's kind of irrelevant. What did it really become? What did it come to represent? What was it truly in its DNA? It grew into its identity. And that's why for decades, Stan Lee always said that once they got past that point, that was the thing in the back of their mind. That the issue of mutants versus humanity was for them an allegory about race relations in America. The philosophies of Magneto and Charles Xavier became an allegory for the differing philosophies between a Martin Luther King and a Malcolm X. And yes, it may have started as one thing, much like, Batman started as something very different than what he became to be known as, but it became something different. And then it found its identity. And that's what the X-Men's identity was for a long time. I don't know, Rob, how would you address that?
Well, I would say, I think you pretty much nailed that. I mean, the whole thing about the X-Men franchise, to me, John, the X-Men are the way I love Star Trek. I love the X-Men comic franchise. And there was always an underlying, the whole point of the show, in a way, or the comic is it has to do with social justice, and it was always about, from its very conception, Homo superior mutants in the Marvel universe were always shunned. They were always people that were feared because they might represent the end of Homo sapiens. They were the beings that were going to replace us. And I think that within the DNA of the creation of the X-Men and all with the last, 50, almost 60 years of X-Men comics, that has been part of that whole series is the fact that mutants are fighting for their freedom. They're fighting for their rights. They're fighting for equality. I mean, more so than any other comic book. And it's absolutely part of what the X-Men are. And I don't think you could ever take that away or out of what the X-Men represent.
Well said. All right, next up. War Doctor 10 writes, "Hey, John and Rob. So, Paul Bettany was asked during an interview with Esquire if Mephisto is in WandaVision, and he stated that he cannot say without risk of getting fired. Is that confirmation that we are getting Mephisto? Thanks." No, absolutely not. No, but one of the things you'll understand with the Marvel thing is you cannot say what is or is not in it. Now, listen, Mephisto could very well be in the show in the last 2 episodes. There's growing evidence that he may. But Paul Bettany's saying, I cannot answer that. Kevin Feige also doesn't want people out there debunking too many rumors, right? Because the more you debunk certain rumors, it allows us as the viewers to narrow in on what could be the truth. So what is the Vulcan logic? When you separate, when you take away that which is impossible, what remains must be true, right?
Sherlock Holmes.
Was that Sherlock Holmes? There you go. I always confuse Spock with Sherlock Holmes. One and the same. So, but that's the thing. Him saying I can't answer that is in no way, shape, or form confirming that Mephisto was there. Not at all. He may be there, but that's not confirmation of it. So yeah, you can ignore that one more, Doctor. All right, next up. An anonymous viewer writes, "John, a couple weeks ago I said something to you about the mailman. Did you notice in this week's show the company he worked for, the name was Presto, and he had a rabbit on his hat? He also followed Agatha. Something is up with this dude." Oh, listen, Anonymous, you're not the only one. Because, that mailman, there is something conspicuous about him. There's something conspicuous about the mailman. There always has been, right? Even, Rob, remember that episode when they were out in the street looking for their dog and they came across the mailman. And the mailman, I can't even remember exactly what he said, but basically it was basically acknowledging he kind of understands everything that's going on, because he was like, don't worry, guys, your mom won't let anything happen, or something along those lines. There was something very conspicuous. I didn't notice that the name on the shirt this week was Presto. I did not recognize. I didn't notice that. So I got to go back and see that. I don't know, Rob, you got a theory right now about what this mailman might be?
I think maybe the mailman is the missing witness.
Oh,
because that's what he's been doing. As the mailman, he walks around and witnesses everything that's happening in Westview. He sees everybody. He watches everybody. Maybe he doesn't even know that, but every time we see him, he's wandering the neighborhood with a smile, watching. And maybe he's the missing witness guy in the witness protection program. That's what he was turned into.
All right. Let's see. And we will find out. There's only 2 episodes left. Suthius writes, hey guys, in regards to everyone wearing trench coats and jackets in Wonder Woman 84 around July, I live in Virginia myself. Even around the DC area in July, it is still in the 70s and 80s, even at night. No one wears jackets and coats here around that time. Dumb movie, LOL. I don't know, Suthius. I think out of the pantheon of issues we can have with Wonder Woman 84, I think whether you're wearing a jacket, I don't see that as being one of the primary problems of this movie. I don't think that's not one of the issues there was to me. And listen, hey, you can be in Los Angeles in July, and there are some, every once in a while a cool evening could hit. You need to pull out a jacket and wear a jacket. So that can even happen here. So that to me, I mean, it's a good observation. I'm just saying, in the laundry list of things that were wrong with Wonder Woman 84, that's not really one of the ones that I'm worried about. All right, next up. An anonymous viewer writes, hey, John and Rob, my son's theory is that Agatha's basement is the Nexus, and the doors lead to different dimensions, like how the door in Doctor Strange's sanctum leads to different parts of Earth. That's how Agnes used Wanda's power to bring Fox's Pietro to the MCU. It's a theory. I am still not on board with that Evan Peters is the Fox's X-Men. I'm still not on board with that. I question it a little bit more now that Wanda and Vision both said he's fake. That makes me kind of suspect that maybe he's not fake. But I'm still not convinced. I'm still not convinced. Rob, I don't know if I had a chance to ask you this. So obviously this week's commercial was about the Nexus, which is of course a reference to the Nexus of all realities. Just because that's there doesn't necessarily mean it's in the show automatically, but man, if they do say that the Nexus of all realities is a part of this show, the repercussions could be massive. Because not only is it the gateway to all realities, it's also the gateway to every iteration of each and every other reality. Like it's literally, we joke, the Star Trek Enterprise could fly through the Nexus. I mean, it's just nuts. What do you think about that theory, though, that basement in and of itself is the Nexus? I didn't get that sense. Did you?
No, John, I can't stop thinking about something you told me yesterday that one of our viewers brought up, and the idea that maybe none of this is at all what it seems, that by Agatha Harkness having her own theme song means that she's a part of WandaVision as a character in the show.
Yeah.
So that would mean that everything that we're seeing is all Wanda's creation. And it's Wanda who is the Nexus being. And I think my new theory, after you told me about all of this, is this whole show is about the emergence of the Scarlet Witch. She has never been the Scarlet Witch. What we are watching is we are watching the birth. I mean, yeah, her kids might be the Young Avengers and all that, but really what this show is about the emergence of Wanda Maximoff. She was the moth or whatever, and this whole show, the Hex is the chrysalis, and she's transforming. And the revelation of this show is that the emergence is going to be Scarlet Witch, and Scarlet Witch is going to be one confused, one broken, one very dangerous individual that doesn't know who or what she really is. And she is a nexus being, which means she exists in all realities. And that's why Doctor Strange 2 is called the Multiverse of Madness. And I think the whole thing is all about Spider-Man 3 and this movie, Multiverse of Madness, are all about basically going back and corralling the most dangerous being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even more so than Thanos, because she is a Nexus being. And now that she's fully emerged and emerged damaged, there's going to be hell to pay, maybe even in the form of Mephisto. But that's what I think this whole WandaVision has been leading up to.
How pissed will people be if we get to WandaVision episode 9 and she wakes up at the end and it was all a dream? It's all a dream.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do that.
What was the show in the 80s? There was a TV show in the 80s that Dallas did it, where one of the characters wakes up at the end of the season and it turns out the whole season was just a dream or something.
There's also St. Elsewhere. St. Elsewhere, the snow globe, the whole series was basically a dream.
Was it? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That too.
Okay. Oh, somebody in the live chat was posting, and Bob Newhart did it too. Yeah, that's true. Oh, people would be pissed. I don't think that's what they're going to do. They're not going to do that. All right, next up. Sam Fisher writes, I recently rewatched 42. I love, he's really good in that. And as amazing as Boseman is in that movie, because he is, can we talk about Harrison Ford as Branch Rickley? And I think it's some of his best work ever as an actor, better than Han, Indy, Decker, and Jack Ryan. I think only The Fugitive is better. I disagree. I thought, listen, I like 42. And Chadwick was very good in it. I still think Chadwick's best performances in Get On Up. And I thought Ford was very good in that. But was he The Fugitive good? No. Was he Indy or Han good? No. I mean, I disagree with you on that. But that's the thing. It's a subjective point of view. It's a subjective taste. And if his performance of that was the best one to you, that's one of the best ones to you. I don't necessarily agree. But hey, he was very good in it. He was absolutely very good in that. All right, next up. An anonymous viewer writes, 1 of 2. I think WandaVision teased the introduction of Nexus and Nexus beings into the MCU. Well, they didn't really tease it. They flat out said Nexus. They kind of came right out and said it. Anyway, the episode's commercial advertised an antidepressant called Nexus, and the ending scene, which revealed Wanda's neighbor, Agnes, is actually the witch Agatha Harkness. This is Alan Haywood, also included some visual hints at a Nexus plotline, with the multiverse only becoming more central to the overall MCU story in Phase 4. It's likely that the Nexus will be highly significant moving forward. Well, again, I thought a lot of that, Alan, wasn't necessarily, Rob, I didn't think it was hinting. I thought it was like, here it is, don't like your reality, change your reality. The Nexus, like it was pretty on the nose. It was pretty on the nose, but Alan brings up a larger question, though, is clearly multiverse and all this kind of stuff. They dropped the phrase multiverse in Spider-Man Far From Home. We know that's where they're going. The question is, how big of a deal will it be moving forward? See, I'm still kind of the theory right now that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is ultimately going to culminate in the shutting down of the multiverse or closing off of the multiverse or sealing it off or whatever. I think it's going to cause a lot of mayhem and whatever, much like it did in the comics. And I think Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is going to be about him shutting it down. But that's only a theory. I mean, Rob, what do you think the immediate and, let's say, mid-range long-term, like the next 5 years of multiverse is? Is it the storyline of WandaVision, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange 2 end? Or is this just the beginning of it and it's going to play a larger part in the Marvel Cinematic Universe moving forward? What do you think?
Here's my fear about multiverse storylines. When I was a kid, I read Justice League of America was like the only comic I read. And once a year, they would do a crossover with the Justice Society of America, with Earth 2. And they were like, I think they were 30 years behind our Earth, which is why the Justice Society was like, they were in the 50s and we were in the modern age, the 70s and the 80s. But they did it once a year. So you could still have normal stories. I think the threat and the fear that I would have about everybody embracing the multiverse is it eventually becomes a storytelling crutch when every story becomes about the multiverse and different iterations of the characters because it's so cool. But my only fear would be that the real story, like if you go back to Iron Man 1, which I think everybody should look to Iron Man 1, because if you want to know why the Marvel Cinematic Universe was so successful, Iron Man 1 is a story about one man and his crisis of conscience and learning what's important in life and changing over the course of that film. And it's not some apocalyptic story about half the universe being snapped away. It's one guy, and his big conflict is with his former mentor, who now runs his company and basically wants to get rich by selling arms. It's not an apocalyptic story. And what I always want our superhero stories, which I love, to be mindful of is at the end of the day, these stories have to stay ultimately grounded as human stories. And these multiverse stories, I think, threaten to spin off into being so far up their own wazoos that they lose the human story at the core of every superhero story. Every superhero story is really a human story, ultimately. Just like every Iron Man tale at the end of Endgame, I am Iron Man, snapping the finger is the end of a story that began in Iron Man 1 about one man finally becoming selfless and letting go of his ego and letting go of all the things that he used to be. And you could look at the entire Infinity Saga as the story of Tony Stark, and we can't forget that.
Okay. Next up, we've got where are we at here? We are at Bryce writes. Where is it? I just want to watch. Oh no, yeah, sorry. New Directions writes. Hey John and Rob, I just watched for the first time a program on YouTube directors for directors on directors with Olivia Wilde and Emerald Fennell. Fascinating take on how they work, and I think it's pretty rebellious on how they see how a set should run. Worth watching. Well, Rob, I mean, I haven't watched this one. I'm fascinated by Olivia Wilde. I haven't seen this one, but I love these actors on actors interviews when you have two actors interviewing each other, directors on directors, or sometimes even like these studio head roundtables, like the one, I think it was Variety did that one about 6 months ago, where they had like all the studio heads together and talking about that stuff. I thought that was great too. Anyway, I haven't seen this particular one, but I am a sucker for these actors on actors, directors on directors. Have you been keeping up with these and watching some of these?
I have not, to be honest. It's so much. I mean, I've been trying to catch up mostly on movies that I'm getting there. I'm getting there because I really want to. But, I just started watching. I watched the first episode of For All Mankind last night.
Oh, I love that show.
I thought the first episode was that's a very interesting show. I think from a storytelling standpoint to analyze, it goes from really small family drama to the wonder of the universe, and I really like it. It's not perfect, but I really like it.
All right, let's move on here. Next up, we've got Bryce who writes, "Hey John, I'm not sure why people think the world didn't know about the events of the snap, because in Spider-Man 2, when they board the plane, oh yeah, this is true. When they board the plane, the listing of things they can watch includes a movie called The Snap with a picture of the Infinity Gauntlet on it." Yeah, Rob, that's been a kind of a debate going on around here because I've seen the last episode of WandaVision. Vision gets in the van with Darcy. I've got questions and I've got answers. And she explains to him in detail what kind of happened. And a lot of people were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How the hell would she know that? Right? But my point has been, look at the beginning of Iron Man 2. The thing starts with Senate hearings on basically the events of Iron Man 1 and everything regarding Tony Stark and his technology. The world needed to know answers, and they got answers. When you talk about the snap, you're talking about the most significant event in human history, where people needed to know why they lost their sons and daughters, their husbands, their wives, their fathers and their mothers, their neighbors and their friends. They needed to know. And then somebody else on the show wrote in yesterday. It's like, listen, when you think about it, look at all these characters who have built-in recording devices, from Iron Man and War Machine, Falcon, and so-and-so, and all these things. This thing would have been so well documented. And then it would have gone, in front of committees and hearings to try to find out what happened. It's not just that I think Darcy would have known. I think everybody knows every detail that happened during that thing. I don't know. What's your take on all that?
Dude, think about when Maria Hill and Nick Fury were snapped out of existence.
Right.
The city was in chaos. You saw like a helicopter crash into a building. I mean, literally, the world would have been devastated. And I'm not saying like nuclear power plants would have melted down or things like that, but the world would have been a mess. And there would be, can you imagine? You would have religious zealots believing this was, in fact, the rapture, and Armageddon was coming. The four horsemen of the apocalypse were on their way to, Megiddo, or wherever the battle was going to take place. And they would have to have come and briefed after the Battle of New York and the Chitauri invasion and what Loki did. We know there's extraterrestrials. They would have to have a committee to get up in front of humanity and explain, listen, God is not mad at us. This was an extraterrestrial event brought on by an extraterrestrial being called Thanos. Here he is. I mean, humans would have gone nuts. And they would have had to have been, this thing would have been meticulously explained and examined and talked about. And I would imagine we might have had visitations from other extraterrestrials that were also trying to put together the pieces around the universe, because this happened everywhere. And I would love to see a movie about what happened in the 5 years between. I mean, we've got a little taste of it in Endgame, but can you imagine the stories that they could tell? They could do a whole series called The Snap that takes place between the 5 years from when Thanos snapped his fingers and then the Avengers reversed it in Endgame. You could deal with the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe.
All right. Next up, we've got Andy Hong, who writes, COVID-19 cases and deaths are falling. I'm going to skip this one, Andy. All right. JP writes, hi from Montreal, John. Love what you do. Thank you so much. If Jennifer Lawrence is in Fantastic Four, fine. But I want her to actually want to be there. Let's face it, in Dark Phoenix, she was not helping the movie by looking like she wanted to be somewhere else. Hi to Anne. By the way, Anne's last name has no E. There is no E on Anne, but just, Yeah, listen, that's exactly what I was saying yesterday. Jennifer Lawrence, and obviously the story about Jennifer Lawrence filming Fantastic Four is completely BS. It's not true. That's been debunked. Hypothetically speaking, I would be, if I heard she was actually, like, if it actually was a real thing and Jennifer Lawrence was going to be Sue Storm in Fantastic Four, I would be a little torn. On the one hand, she is one of the world's best actresses. Sorry, she just is. She's incredible. She's in the top tier. There's a reason she has 4 Academy Award nominations and an Academy Award sitting on her shelf, and she's going to get more. She's great. However, she loses interest very quickly in franchises she's a part of. In X-Men First Class, you could tell she was invested. She did really well. She did really good in that movie. But after that, you could just tell she didn't care. She didn't even want to be there. And it's like, if that's what we're going to get in Fantastic Four, well, she'll do great for one movie and then she'll lose interest. I'd rather just get another actress. That's just me, man. That's just me. All right, next up. Let's see. Roll of the Egg writes, still scrapping your yuck off my yum, unicorn. Stuff sticks like dried up oatmeal. Kidding. I love your show for its honesty, information, and humor. I enjoyed most of Emma Stone's work. Side eye to Manic. Yeah. So Cruella's a go for me. Felipe, stop listening. Listen. Yes, Emma Stone. The funny thing, Rob, when you actually look back at the career of Emma Stone, there are some very, very bad projects. There are some very, very bad movies. I was actually in one of her movies as an extra, but you do see me on camera. She did a movie with Dwight Schrute, Rainn Wilson. I remember like The Office was so popular and they tried to see if Rainn Wilson could be like a standalone star off of that. It didn't really work, but he did this movie called The Rocker. And
I remember that movie.
Yeah, where he's like like an older guy who joins a young kid band as their drummer or something like that. And Emma Stone was actually in that film. She did a lot of those ones. She kissed a lot of frogs before she found her career prince. You know what I mean? But she is so good. I mean, listen, I know the talk of La La Land became kind of a joking point for some people, but honestly, you go back and watch La La Land. It is one of the finest performances, I'd say, of the past 10 years. I'd put it on a top 10 best female lead performances in the past 10 years. Like she is so good in that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Emma Stone right now?
I love Emma Stone as a performer. I think she's really an exciting actress. You know what? She was in a movie called Easy A.
Yes.
And I thought she was, I mean, that movie came out in 2010. You know, to me, Emma Stone like hasn't aged. I'm sure if I went back and I even own Easy A on Blu-ray. I haven't watched it in a long time. I'm sure if I went and watched it, I'd be like, wow, she really was great. I'm a huge fan of hers. And I think that Cruella, if nothing else, shows a pretty big leap in where she's going to be going as a performer. But like you, I'm a huge fan of La La Land. Perhaps not as big a La La Land fan as Scott Mantz is, but I'm a huge fan.
That our buddy Scott, it's all that La La Land life, man. Like seriously, I think he loves them more than the Beatles.
We're all about that superhero La La Land life. Yeah, I think she's great. I love her, and looking at her in Cruella looks to me like she's not too over the top either. She's playing it just the way she should be playing it. She hasn't gone Jim Carrey Ace Ventura yet, which I think is great.
All right, next up, we got Sam Fisher writes. And by the way, Big Johnny in the live chat sends in a super chat badge. Thank you, Big Johnny. Appreciate that, man. Sam Fisher writes, there is a really great meme of an image of Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, and Emilia Clarke with the caption, "This looks like a behind-the-scenes image for a movie about a bubbly college girl trying to hide that her parents are demigods. And now I really want to see that movie." Which one was the kid, though? Was the kid Gal or was the kid Emilia? I'm not really sure, but I don't know. Hey, listen, do me a favor, Sam. Can you email me that? I'd like to see it. Email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. I would like to take a look at that. Thank you. All right, next up, Justice for Sparky writes, "Hey, John and Rob. Big fan since the Man of Steel review. Thank you so much, man. So Monica in WandaVision specifically said, we're going to go meet my guy. She never said my girl. I know I'm reading too much into it, but I don't think the soldier is the engineer because of this." Listen, I have said since the episode, I am not convinced that we're not still going to meet the engineer. I think the reason Darcy and Monica are now inside the Hex and Jimmy is still outside is because we need one of our central characters to still meet this engineer. I don't think that was the engineer. Now, I'm not invested in that, and I think it's very possible maybe there was nothing to the engineer thing. That is possible. But I still think there's a chance there could be. Rob, I heard another really interesting theory yesterday. Mephisto is Jimmy Woo. That Jimmy Woo, played by Randall Park, is actually Mephisto all along. You go back, and they mentioned you go back to Ant-Man 2. What did he say? What did he say was his other job aside from being in the FBI? He said he's a youth pastor. He's a youth pastor, he says, in Ant-Man 2. And wouldn't it be funny if, like, Jimmy, I mean, that would be one that nobody would see coming. Now, it would break my heart because I really want that Marvel Universe X-Files show with Darcy and Jimmy Woo. But that would be something. It would be something. I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay, where were we? But anyway, Justice for Sparky. Yeah, I think there is a chance we may very well still meet the engineer. I wouldn't put any money on that, but I'm kind of thinking there's a chance. All right, JP writes, where are we at? Hey, John and Rob. What do you think about Mordo possibly being involved in WandaVision? I feel like people forget at the end of the first Doctor Strange, Mordo's goal was to destroy all sorcerers, so he may be after Agatha. Thanks. Yeah, we've covered that a couple of times, actually. Listen, it does make narrative sense if Mordo is involved. Of course, we know this story is connected with Doctor Strange 2. Of course, Mordo is going to be in Doctor Strange 2. He could very well be after Agatha. Agatha may be doing all this just to hide from Mordo, for all we know. Now, I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but the deeper this show goes, I think the less and less likely it is that Mordo shows up, but it is one of the possibilities. It is one of the possibilities. And again, unlike some really crazy theories, a Mordo theory does connect some dots because he is, of course, involved in Doctor Strange 2, so there could be a connection there. And by the way, Juan Diaz sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that, Juan. I appreciate that. All right, next up, we've got an anonymous viewer writes, John, you completely forgot about Jennifer Lawrence in Hunger Games. No, I just didn't really feel there was a need to mention Jennifer Lawrence in Hunger Games. As a franchise of 4 films that she led, she can do franchise work. The majority of the actors in Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix didn't seem like they were exactly loving it either. Well, here's the thing, Anonymous. I think you can make an argument that going into the final 2 Hunger Games movies, it started to look like she cared less and less. Like, I thought, actually, Rob, I might be in the minority, but I actually thought the second Hunger Games movie was the best one. Like, I really loved the second Hunger Games movie. I really did. But after that, I thought not only did the movies decline in quality, I really didn't like the last one, but I thought part of that was just, it seemed like Jennifer Lawrence's performances got flatter and flatter as they went. Started off strong, got flatter and flatter. Now, not as bad as the X-Men films where you could clearly see she just didn't even want to be there. But I thought there was something to that too. So I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's just me. But no, I didn't forget about the Hunger Games one. All right, next up. Tyler Pfeiffer writes, this past weekend, I went and saw Lord of the Rings in IMAX in all of its updated 4K brilliance, and it had me thinking, is there a more underrated actor than Viggo Mortensen? I also believe that Ian McKellen was robbed of an Oscar for Gandalf the Grey. Your thoughts? I don't know that Viggo's underestimated. I mean, he gets plenty of nominations, and everybody seems to respect Viggo Mortensen very, very highly. Like, whenever Viggo's name comes up, I think people are very, very up on Viggo Mortensen. So I don't think I would call him underrated. And as far as I don't think Ian McKellen was robbed of an Academy Award. I don't think he was robbed of one. I think he was excellent. He was really good. And of course they won. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, and maybe I am wrong. I think I remember like all 3 of the Lord of the Rings films winning Best Ensemble at the SAG Awards. I know at least 1 or 2 of them won it. So, but I don't think it was that. But Rob, it is crazy. These movies, these Lord of the Rings movies, they don't age and they don't get tired. Like every time, if it's on a screen in Best Buy, I will stop and stand there until Anne drags me away and says it's time to go. You know, they are just on that level. How are these movies aging for you? I mean, you've obviously got a personal connection. You worked on set of these, of at least one of these movies, or was it all 3 of them? I can't remember. But
no, we were behind the scenes, so we were kind of a year behind. But I did. Okay. I watched Return of the King being shot. A lot of the miniature and effects work. The Bigature unit was. I loved being. I would go there and like watch them shoot fell beast points of views as they're plunging through the Minas Tirith's streets. I mean, it was just, I think, you know what I think about the Lord of the Rings movies to me are the perfect confluence of all of the aspects of filmmaking, especially fantasy filmmaking, brought together. You have a really great adaptation, a script that's a really great adaptation of the source material. I know Tolkien purists are like cringing right now, but I think it's an adaptation. Then you have a director who was uncompromising in his vision and would always try and make the movies better because he owned the effects team, so he could do that. Then it was beautifully cast, and they were doing things that were incredible, like the way they created scale between the hobbits and everyone else. And the fact, I think the real success of that movie is, John, it represents the efforts of an entire country all of the spirit of New Zealand, that we can do anything, that can do, almost a frontier spirit, because New Zealand's a small country. The whole country got behind those movies, and the whole country knew that they were making something that would be enjoyed by the whole world. And I think they imbued the Lord of the Rings with that spirit. And I don't think there's been any movies ever made that can make that boast. Can boast that all the people that live in New Zealand had something to do with that film in some way, shape, or form, or knew somebody that did. And that's what you feel. You feel the creative spirit of an entire country that knew they were making something for the whole world.
Absolutely. And that still makes it unique among a lot of things. Anyway, thanks for that, Tyler. Next up, Connor DeRoyan writes, "Hey, John Rob, if you look up the casting list for Doctor Strange 2, Tom Hiddleston is listed as a part of the cast in addition to Toby, Andrew, and Catherine Hahn. Does this give credence to the idea that Loki could be a cameo in WandaVision? Thanks again." Listen, I keep telling people this. Never pay attention to the casting lists in IMDb for movies that are still a ways off. They're very, very, very unreliable. Now, casting lists on IMDb after a movie comes out, they're basically rock solid, but never, like almost once a week, I get an email from somebody, "John, on IMDb, this movie that's coming out in 2 years has this person listed." And, quite often that doesn't work out. So it's just too easy to get names put on there. So after the fact, it's pretty locked, but I wouldn't pay any attention to that, Connor. It doesn't mean that Loki won't show up in WandaVision. I think it's unlikely, but it doesn't mean he won't. But that name being listed there doesn't even mean he's going to be in that movie. So I wouldn't worry about that right now, Connor. Just a little heads up on that. All right, Mr. Gux writes, "Hey, John, great show. Thank you so much, Mr. Gux. WandaVision theory. Number 1, the engineer is Elon Musk. Number 2, multiverse was opened, which explains why J.K. Simmons appeared in Spider-Man Far From Home. It also explains Electro and Dr. Octavius' appearances in Spider-Man 3. Evan Peters is the Fox Quicksilver, but will appear only in WandaVision." I mean, I don't think it's going to be Elon Musk, but that would be funny if it was. Multiverse was open, which explains why J.K. Simmons appears in Spider-Man Far From Home. It really doesn't. It just means that he's there. You got to also remember, this is very, very, very important to remember. But this is not inconsequential. This is actually really vital. It was never planned for J.K. Simmons to be in Spider-Man Far From Home. When you listen, and the reason why J.K. Simmons tells the story about why, because he was asked, why is J. Jonah bald? In this one, he was asked. And he replied, because they didn't have enough, that this was literally a last second idea for fun. And they literally didn't have time to get a hairpiece together that would be right. So they had to make a decision. Do we just do it with him bald, or do we just not do it at all? And they decided to do it with him bald. Now, that doesn't mean that they couldn't extrapolate that later and maybe want to attach meaning to it later. But it is important to remember that J. Jonah Jameson last second thing, it was literally last second that they decided to do it and throw it in for fun. And I would encourage everybody to go back and read that story because it's kind of funny that way. But that's so I don't think JK's appearance signifies anything. It can be fit in to a multiverse narrative. You can fit that in, but it's not the harbinger of it. And as far as Evan Peters being the Fox Quicksilver, I don't know. I'm still doubtful, but the more Wanda says he's fake and the more Vision says he's fake, it's making me doubt my doubt. If that's even a proper way of saying it. Wanda and Vision confirming my doubt makes me doubt my doubt. So I don't know. We'll see where that goes, Mr. Gux. All right, Connor DeRoyan writes, "Hey, John and Rob, what are your thoughts on plays and playwrights? I think the interactive theatrical experience of plays is often overlooked. I myself was Lorenzo in a rendition of The Merchant of Venice once. By the way, my favorite Al Pacino performance was in a rendition of Merchant of Venice. What are some of your favorite plays and playwrights? Thank you." Well, I mean, listen, I'll be honest with you. A lot of the live theater I go to, Rob, is actually musical theater. So, the last number of shows in the year prior to the lockdown happening, I went and saw Hamilton, Waitress, Cats, School of Rock, Miss Saigon. So I'm really more into the musical theater. Like I haven't gone to see a lot of Tennessee Williams or anything like that. So that's really been more my experience. I don't know. What's your experience with live theater been like, Rob?
When I was younger, I saw, growing up in Seattle, I saw pretty much everything that came, everything from the Fantastics to Cats. I saw Camelot. I even saw Katharine Hepburn once in a play.
Wow.
And yeah, my grandmother, we went a lot, and I really loved live theater. And here, the first time I went to New York, I went and saw I can't believe it hasn't been adapted, but City of Angels I saw back in 1990, which is the first time I went to New York City, and I saw it on Broadway, which I really like that. And then here, since I've been in LA, I saw things like Les Mis, and then Elizabeth and I, up until the pandemic, we would get at least a package of 4 tickets a year to go see various plays. Like I saw the musical version of Amelie. We went and saw that together. So, and LA has very vibrant theater. I mean,
Yes,
we go to the symphony, we go to the ballet, we go to live plays and shows a lot. I saw things like the Book of Mormon. We get a lot of great stuff here in LA. So there's a lot of opportunity to see live theater, and I love it.
Me too. All right, next up, Larry Herzog Jr. writes, do you think the pandemic has killed the movie theater industry with same-day streaming release and so forth? That's been a question that has literally been asked about 500 times in the past year. Understandably, I mean, it's a big topic. No, it hasn't. Now, what is yet to be seen, like after a dude has a bad motorcycle accident, and you're going to, how much of his cognitive skills goes back? Well, you're going to have to wait and see. Once the theaters start reopening again, once more and more people get immunized, once we get more and more of the pandemic in our rearview mirror, that's when we're really going to see. Now, if you believe the numbers, and I'm dubious, Rob, of the numbers coming out of China. I've always been dubious of China's self-reporting of their box office. But if you believe the numbers, the theatrical industry in China right now is bigger and more vibrant than it's ever been in its history. How will things be here 4 months from now? I don't think it's killed the theatrical industry. There's a reason Disney is still wanting to sit on the movies, because that's how you make your real money. But I can't say that with certainty until we get all the theaters back open, and then get a few more months after that in our rearview mirror, and only then will we really be able to sit and evaluate what is the current status of the theaters. But they're still here. Studios are still wanting to get them back up running. They're still wanting to get their movies out there. So my answer right now is no, it has not killed the theatrical industry. But let's talk again in 6 months. Let's talk again in 6 months and see how things are. Because, Rob, honestly, right now, I think it's a coin toss. 6, 7, 8 months from now, we could be right back to 2019 numbers. 6, 7, which, is the huge. Or 6, 7, 8 months from now, it could be, 2014 numbers. Good, solid, nothing super to get excited about, but good. Or we could be right in the middle of the pandemic numbers where nobody's going to the movie theaters anymore. So I honestly don't know. I think it's kind of a toss-up. Where are you at right now?
Well, let me ask you this, and I think this is my the big question mark I have. Let's say theaters open again. Are people going to feel the same way about going to the movies as they felt a year ago? I mean, people have settled into working remotely, and it's working out. Companies are saying, we're going to extend remote working because they realize that people have become, things have changed. Remote workers have been, some of them have been much more productive. It's less parking. There's less hassle. And has our civilization changed because of this experience, that people will not flock back to the movie theaters the way they used to because they've become so used to watching? We're not. We want to go to see movies. But what about the rest of the world? Are they going to go back? Is their love of movies? Most people are just casual moviegoers, but we're hardcore. But will the casual moviegoers return and go see movies the way they used to? That's my question.
Yeah. And honestly, right now, I don't know the answer. Like, I know that like a lot of the hardcore movie fans are like salivating at the mouth to get back into the theaters. I think for a lot of the average moviegoers, it's going to take a little bit longer to reacclimate. So that's why I say I don't think we're going to be able to tell once the doors open.
Right.
I think the doors got to open, and then 4 or 5 months after that, once, because Rob, before when they were talking about reopening, like 8 months ago, there was some talk about maybe reopening. You and I were saying, it's not just turn the lights on. It's like you've got to build up to it. You got to open it up. You got to get everybody understanding and knowing that the movies are back. You can go out to the theater again. So there's just awareness, number one. Then beyond awareness, it's that you got to get people going. Now listen, full marks to the North American Theater Owners Association, who did a lot of studies and published a lot of reports from the medical journal saying that there were no COVID cases attached in this country from going to movie theaters. That's great. But they're going to have to put a lot of money into doubling down, getting those studies out, getting them done again, getting those studies out, making people aware the theaters are opening, making people aware that it's safe to go to the theaters, because you've got to now get people comfortable with it again too. And it's a long road. So we'll find out. But again, it's not going to be tomorrow. It's probably we're still another 6 months away from really being able to answer that question. But I think they'll be fine. All right. Next up, Mr. Habertino writes, there was talk of Marvel trying to get actors that they've talked to about There was talk of Marvel trying to get actors that they've talked about to play parts in the MCU in the past, to play alts in the multiverse. What if our cameo is Tony as played by Tom Cruise? There's absolutely no indication that that's the case. And by the way, as of right now, in Infinity War and Endgame, when they created the alternate timelines, the alternate realities, there was never one instance of a character that didn't look exactly like they look like in their current realm, right? So that's an interesting thing to see how they're going to deviate with that. Because if Evan Peters is the Fox X-Men Evan Peters, which I still don't think he is, but I'm warming up to the idea, that'll be the first time that we actually get a character who is a character from this world, but actually looks completely different, because everything else, it was always the same. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. All right, Manny E writes, a while back in one of your shows, you spoke of a picture that was released showing, I believe, indicating maybe Mysterio is in Spider-Man 3. There are also missing posters with missing children on the milk cartons in WandaVision. Could it be interlinked? Well, here's the thing, Rob. That poster of Mysterio that we see on the Spider-Man 3 set picture says, I believe. I don't think that was saying that they believe Mysterio's still around. I think that was just saying, I believed in Mysterio, or I believe Mysterio, or whatever, because of the big claims he made at the end. A lot of people brought up, Rob, in this episode of WandaVision, on the milk carton, there was a missing child image on the milk carton. And everybody's wondering, what does that signify? And maybe I'm crazy, but to me, it doesn't signify anything. It used to be a pretty standard thing that milk cartons had the pictures of missing children on it. So I didn't see anything involved there. As far as is it connected with the missing children in Spider-Man 3, it's hard to say, because Spider-Man 3 is going to take place minimum 8 or 9 months after the events of WandaVision. So it's really hard to say. Because remember, Rob, I at first thought missing children posters in Spider-Man 3, no children in WandaVision, there's some kind of connection. And then I had to remind myself, this place takes place nearly a year later. So I don't know. Where are you on that right now?
Well, I go back and forth. I vacillate on my opinion on this. Now, if in fact Wanda's kids are part of a larger, like I thought to myself, because people bring this up all the time about the Spider-Man 3 thing. This is from set photos and people are drawing these connections. What if part of Spider-Man 3 has to do with missing children? Like, what if we're seeing the beginning of a plot that has far more wide-reaching ramifications and someone's taking children for their own nefarious purposes, and we're seeing the beginnings of that here? That's a possibility. 2, like you said, the milk carton with missing kids, that was a standard of milk cartons all through that, like the 80s, the time period that they're harking back to. And if you look at the way that's shot, they make sure that that missing kid picture is out of focus. It's in, it's there's the depth of field isn't large. There's not a lot there. So that kid, it's just part of the art department being period specific. So maybe it means nothing. I think that's part of what this show's all about, is we speculate to hell in our minds. This show's already gone 100 different places where it might not be going at all. So I think we have to let WandaVision be WandaVision. But I'm torn. I don't know what to think yet.
Yeah. I agree. All right, guys, we got time for one more question with Rob here. So let's get this one in. Rui G writes, just read a theory that Dottie might be Arcana / Moonglow. Her flowers are yellow, Wanda's are red, and Agatha's are purple. What if there are more witches / magic folks in Westview being sucked dry by whoever Yo Magic Shark is? Love your show. All right, thanks for sending that in, Rob. And that's interesting, because I was just talking to Kimberly about this yesterday, about, when you go into the comics, there was the whole issue of New Salem, which was supposed to be this place where like witches and sorcerers and all that kind of stuff could live free, hence the name New Salem. And that's kind of then where Agatha's son came into play and all that kind of stuff. So there's a theory growing around out there about what if like Westview is kind of a representation of New Salem? What if there are multiple like magic users there and all this kind of stuff? Now, I haven't seen anything yet that even hints towards that, other than what's in the comic lore. But I mean, that's always, frivolous at best. But so I don't think it is, but I'd be lying if I didn't say it's a possibility that we could be looking at some sort of form of New Salem here. I don't know. Rob, what do you think about that? Could there be other magic users here? Could this be a representation of New Salem? What are your thoughts?
Well, one of the things that I've definitely thought about this show is that it is the introduction of the supernatural to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's what a lot of this is all about. Like that, remember when the women were all meeting with Dottie in the gazebo in the middle of town?
Yeah.
Well, that could have been a witch's coven that we just don't know about. And maybe that's exactly what we're seeing happen here, is that this is going to be the introduction of the supernatural in a big way, opening the door for people like Mephisto or Blade or whomever. It could be that. And I could definitely see that. And it also will send off, Wanda turns into Scarlet Witch. So I think it's a possibility. But again, and if it is, then we'll go back and watch the show again and see all the clues they've been dropping throughout the show that we were thinking were something else. And that's what I'm actually looking really forward to, going back and watching the show again, because I think we'll be like, oh, yeah, now I get it. I haven't done that yet, but I kind of want to, but I'm going to wait till it's all over and then go back and watch it again. But again, John, the possibility is there. Yeah. We just don't know yet.
All right, Rob, and we have again kept you over time, but thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. But in the meantime, where can people find you and your various triumphs online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations.
And just a reminder to everybody, go and check out the trailers and the previews for the projects Rob has been working on the last couple of years, Dota, and of course, Tango Shalom. Go and check those out. Rob, thanks a lot for being here again, man. I will talk to you soon, brother.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Have a good one. Fun. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Always good to have him here. But listen, guys, we still have some time, so let's keep things right on rolling with your questions. Kyle writes, hello, John. Love your show. Thank you so much, Kyle. You said, you have said about 2 times now that you are worried about the ending of WandaVision being the boring heroes win ending. What if within the next 2 episodes, Wanda has to kill her kids and Vision, big battle at the end? I mean, listen, that's the thing. If WandaVision, which has been such a unique, original, different kind of show for Marvel especially, ends with your stereotypical cookie cutter paint by numbers superhero ending, yay, good guys win, woo, Kevin Feige and team will find a way to make it awesome. I'm sure they will. I have all the faith in the world in Kevin Feige and his ability to make that awesome, no doubt. But I will be a little bit disappointed. I feel like there's an opportunity here with such a different, original type of show to have a real Shakespearean tragic kind of ending. And I'm not going to lie to you, Kyle, I would love to see them do it. I would love to see them really end with a real Shakespearean level kind of tragedy. Whether she's the one who's got to kill Vision, because we know Vision doesn't make it out of this show. So whether she's the one to kill Vision, whether she just loses Vision again somehow, some way, she loses Pietro again, even though I don't think that's the real Pietro. She loses her kids, whatever. I think there's just something so heavily dramatic about that if they do. So I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm kind of hoping that they do. That's just me. All right, next up. Mr. Habatina writes, in Civil War, Tony finances all the MIT students' projects. Yes, I've often wondered how many heroes and or villains might come from this because they bypass the normal review process. Also, didn't Riri Williams build her armor while studying at MIT? Maybe. Like, I'll be honest with you, I am familiar with the Riri Williams story, but I never read it like firsthand. I always just read about it instead of reading those actual comics. So I don't really know for sure. There could be a connection there. Listen, I just because a university student gets their proposal granted and they can pursue their projects, that doesn't mean they turn into superheroes or supervillains. So yeah, maybe something comes out of that. Maybe it was just a nice, educational gesture by Tony Stark. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see where they're going to go with that. All right. Next up, we've got an anonymous viewer writes, I saw a video last night where a guy's theory on WandaVision is not Mephisto or Nightmare. His theory was a character named Shuma Gorath, somebody else wrote that in before too, and something called many angeled ones. Never heard of this, but it seemed very interesting. Again, I don't know, the more and more you get into the obscure things, the less likely it becomes. Again, I'm kind of warming up to this theory that somebody wrote in yesterday that Agatha isn't even real. That Agatha is yet just an extension of the Agnes character that Wanda has made the villain in her WandaVision fantasy. I'm not saying it is, but I'm telling you, when that person first wrote that in, I was like, nah. And then I stopped for a second and was like, wait a minute, that would be damn interesting. Because she wants to create a story where her and Vision get to team up. Maybe even her children and battle a bad guy. So she creates this Agatha Harkness bad guy, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it is. I just think that's kind of interesting. We'll see where that goes. All right, next up, James Argenta writes, to me, the book in WandaVision looks like it has two keys on it and that it needs two magic users to unlock whatever is trapped in it, whether it be Mephisto, Nightmare, or a source of more power for Agatha. Maybe. I mean, that's some deduction work there. I don't know, but listen, what was clear to me was clearly the book is relevant, right? There were a lot of things in Agatha's basement, but only one thing that the camera stopped to focus in on that showed a lot of power emanating from it and kind of even moving a bit. Something, it seems, is trapped in that book. And maybe that's part of this narrative. Maybe it's not. We'll find out in episode 8. All right. Valentin Vasilev writes, from what I heard, the reason Jennifer Lawrence lost interest in the X-Men role was because of the prosthetics and makeup, saying it irritated her skin. Well, no, that was true for the first film. They changed, when you watch further things, they totally changed because she didn't like the prosthetics she had to wear, which, I don't know, boo-hoo. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're getting paid more than most people will make in 10 to 20 years of working full time. You're getting paid that for 3 or 4 months work, and you got to wear an uncomfortable bodysuit. I forgive me for not being able to muster up a lot of sympathy. Boo-hoo. There are people out there who work for $10 an hour on hot asphalt all day, 10 hours a day, sweating profusely, being real damn uncomfortable. You probably made $5 million for that movie for 3 or 4 months work, and you had to wear an uncomfortable bodysuit. Boo-hoo. I don't know. Maybe that's insensitive of me. I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't have to wear that bodysuit For all I know, maybe it caused stabbing, searing pain 24 hours a day. I don't know. So maybe it's unfair. Maybe that's unfair of me. But at any rate, they changed the costume. That's why she didn't look nearly as good moving forward as she did in that first one. But they did change the costume for her. They changed the costume for her. But I don't know, man. You're a professional. I don't like the idea that, oh, I lost interest. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's cool. You just lost interest. You know what? You're paid millions of dollars. Not every actor makes millions of dollars. You make millions of dollars. And you're supposed to be a professional. And I don't care if you think the movie you're working on is the worst piece of garbage that's ever been made. If you're a professional, you show up, you psych yourself up, and you try every time to give the best performance you've ever given. Maybe you succeed, maybe you don't. But you show up and you give everything you've got. If not respect for yourself, if not respect for your own career, then maybe for the respect of the people who are going to pay money to go and watch your movie. Maybe out of respect for the people who are ponying up millions of dollars. Maybe respect for the writers who wrote this role for you. Maybe respect for all the crew members that are there giving their best efforts every day to try to make something good. Maybe out of respect to everybody else, you show up and you do your damn job. Maybe you do that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just spitballing here. But anyway. And remember, I'm coming across like I don't like Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's amazing. Listen, I say that as somebody who thinks Jennifer Lawrence is absolutely spectacular. But knowing how spectacular she is really makes her phoning it in really obvious. It's like with Bruce Willis. Knowing how good Bruce Willis is when he cares really makes it obvious when he doesn't care, right? So it's kind of that. But anyway, there's that. Sorry, I'm going on with that too long. Anyway, next up, I Am Mutant writes, "Hey, JC, due to the success of WandaVision, I on Disney Plus actually think X-Men might be better going as a TV series for character development. Love the old animation Fox did with a great job, but we miss Cyclops being used properly and others. I think being on TV would get more." I disagree. I think X-Men is a better property theatrically. Now, of course, with X-Men comes 500 characters, right? With X-Men comes 500 characters. So you can do a lot. I mean, there's going to be stuff they're going to do for TV and stuff for that. But to me, basically, movie is always the better way to go. That's just me, though. That's just me. All right, next up. Live in Spirals writes, "I think you're mistaken to assume the book isn't the Darkhold just because it's appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Runaways. No, that's not why I don't think it's the Darkhold." Also, you weren't listening to me. You said to yourself, Feige doesn't care about the TV shows, so why wouldn't he use his own version of the Darkhold? Okay, you clearly didn't listen to me. What I said about the Darkhold was twofold. And I said both of these things both times I've talked about it. Number one, it ain't the Darkhold, because when you look at the Darkhold, or when you look at the Darkhold from those shows, and then you look at the book that was in WandaVision, they're clearly two very different books. I said the only alternative to that is that it is a Darkhold, and it's Kevin Feige pissing all over Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like basically saying that show does not exist. Right? I said that. Kevin Feige has never acknowledged in any of his movies, he's never acknowledged Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The movies have never referenced Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. always references the MCU. And so we as an audience have been told to understand that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. happens in the same reality and the same cinema. It's a part of the MCU, even if the MCU never acknowledges it. But what Kevin Feige has never done is outright dismiss Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Kevin Feige has never come out and dismissed Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If he says this book is the Darkhold, and he could do that, that is the first time we're really watching Kevin Smith actively pissing all over Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and saying that show does not exist. Because that's what he'd be doing. So I've always said, look, all other things being equal, it's not the Darkhold because you can clearly see it's two completely different books. unless Kevin Feige is completely spitting in the face of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and saying that show doesn't even exist to us. This is the Darkhold. Not that thing over there. That thing doesn't even exist. That whole show doesn't exist. This is the Darkhold. So that could be an option. But again, I just kind of lean away from that because Kevin Feige has never actively discredited Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a show. He's never actively done that. So I don't know that he would start now, but maybe he did. But I've always said that is one of the two options. I have always said that's one of the two options. All right. Do I keep saying Kevin Smith? Yeah, I probably keep saying Kevin Smith. I keep whenever I go to say Kevin Feige, I keep saying Kevin Smith for some reason. Anyway. All right. Thanks for that, Live in Spirals. Next up, Dave writes, "Hey, John, I was watching the promo for the upcoming WandaVision episode 8, and there is a shot of Doctor Strange. That's not real, by the way. Just so you know, a lot of people make a lot of fake promos for the next episode, but just so you're aware, that was fan made. That was not Disney made. That was fan made, just so you know. All right, next up, Mr. Intellectual writes, you and I know that art is subjective. Should a college professor be fired for saying art is objective? I say yes. It's not a free speech issue. It's about doing your job. Well, here's the thing, Mr. Intellectual. I think you sent in this exact question before, and I will say, look, I'm not an art professor. I'm not an art student. I have no valid opinion about whether an art professor should be fired for saying art is objective. I'll leave that up to somebody else. Other people can have the discussion, but I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to give an opinion on that. I'm just not qualified to give an opinion on that. All right. Ray writes, what if Agatha is from another universe? She created an image of Pietro that looks like Peter because that's what he looked like in her universe. I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, and listen, with them bringing in the idea of the nexus of all realities, anything is possible. I mean, and I mean it. Anything is possible. I said it before, but I'm not joking. Darth Vader could walk into a scene. The nexus of all realities is literally a doorway to every reality conceivable and every iteration of each one of those realities as well. It literally means anything is possible. In the real world, anything would be limited to things that Disney has the rights to, but within that world, it's all bets are off. So anything's possible. I don't think it's likely, but anything is possible. All right, next up, Patrick Conway writes, one of two. I think WandaVision will end with Agatha's master release, Nightmare or Mephisto, Vision dead, the twins being kidnapped by Agatha's master, and Wand joining him to protect the twins. I mean, that's a possibility, which will lead to Scarlet Witch versus Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange 2, but she won't be the big bad. I just don't want to becoming the true villain in a Doctor Strange. That's an Avengers movie. Also, it's been Agatha all along, drilled into my head for 4 days. Oh man, it's been Agatha all along. That song has been drilled. I mean, I've not been able to get that out of my head. Listen, everything you said is possible. It's all on the table. My current status of my theories, which is changing week to week, is that Vision doesn't make it out. The kids don't make it out. I'm starting to think maybe Agatha is just Wanda's make-believe villain. I don't know. Wanda finally snaps, and then we go into that, and I think she is the big bad. But again, after my opinions, as we get new information given to us, our theories change, and mine have been evolving as well, Patrick. Let's see how yours turn out. All right, next up. Jabin Carter writes, I still believe it's all Wanda. I think it's going to be revealed that there isn't actually an Agatha Harkness. I was thinking the same thing. It's just another character Wanda created in an effort to feel less guilty about the hex after confronting Monica. Wanda is still in control. Listen, I've been going back and forth on the whole, how in control is Wanda? Is she 100% in control? Is she 50% in control? Is she 10% in control? All that kind of stuff. But ever since yesterday, somebody wrote into me and said, like, think about it. Why did Agatha get her own theme song as if it was the opening to a TV show? Because it's all a part of Wanda's fantasy. Wanda needed to introduce a villain into WandaVision. And she brought in Agatha Harkness, an extension of the Agnes character. And just to make sure to drive it home that she's the villain of the story, and I killed Sparky too. Just to drive it home. And then she got her own TV show opening, Agatha All Along. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm convinced. I'm just saying I'm getting there. I am getting there. I am starting to get in there. Again, somebody threw out that theory yesterday and I dismissed it at first, but it's been growing on me. It's been growing on me. I'm not saying I'm convinced. I'm just saying it's growing on me. That's all. All right, next up. Alan Haywood writes, with Agatha, the Darkhold in play, it seems like Chthon could be involved, and that's who showed up as Pietro. I don't know why he's wearing the face of X-Men movie universe of Pietro, but Chthon has used Quicksilver's body to deceive people in comics before. I'm not familiar with that story point. I'm not familiar with that story point of that happening. I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it. Could be. Listen, again, I still don't think this is, I think this is an imposter. Now, if it is an imposter, and it might not be, but if it's an imposter, then what options are open to us? Who is it? Who is this Evan Peters character walking around? Is it Agatha's son? That's become a popular theory. Is it the missing witness protection person? Could be. That's another theory. Is this actually Mephisto, who was there close up to Wanda, manipulating her, trying to separate? Remember in the episode, the Halloween episode? Who was it that got Vision separated from Wanda? It was Pietro. It's like, oh, I got to go. And she's like, no, this is the kid's first Halloween. And who stepped in? Pietro stepped in. Oh, no, you let him go. I'll be the father figure for the night. I'll be there. So he wanted to be close to Wanda to manipulate her. He wanted Vision out of the picture. Maybe it was Mephisto or Nightmare, or maybe it's something else. There are a lot of theories going around about that one right now, Alan, and that's another legitimate one. All right, next up. Anonymous equals Mephisto writes, John, help. I'm trying to manage my expectations, but I saw again in the interview with Bettany where he talks about this mystery character and actor that will appear. Do you think he would go that far to misdirect fans with something that won't happen? Yeah, I do. I'm not saying he did, but is that something Kevin Feige would orchestrate? Oh, totally would. That would totally be something Kevin Feige would do. Plant misinformation to keep people off the track of what is actually happening. Look, he did it. Listen, he started experimenting with it even before, Infinity War. But where do you think that whole thing with Hulk running with the Avengers in Infinity War in the trailer, right? That's not even in the movie. They purposely start planning things to misdirect the audience and to think something's happening when something's not. Would Kevin Feige actually go so far as to have one of his actors even say misleading things in an interview? I'm not saying he did, but I'm not putting it past Kevin Feige either. I think that's totally within the realm of possibility, something Kevin Feige would do. All right, next up, we've got Danger Diaz, 007 writes, hey, John. Just realized I'm nearing my 10th Campea faniversary soon. That's a good one to celebrate, man. I'm interested in your thoughts on the idea of Toby as the big cameo. I think that fits both shock factor and narrative with Spidey 3 next. Could be a result of some multiverse stuff. Well, I mean, here's the thing. There's been some stuff. Listen, I still believe we're going to see Toby and Andrew in Spider-Man 3. I still think we are. But there has been some growing stuff that maybe they're not. So I think people need to understand before getting too invested in that, because there have been a lot of fake stories out there too, but I think people need to prepare that maybe Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield do not appear in Spider-Man 3. I still think they are, but there's a possibility they're not. So there's that problem. Tobey showing up in WandaVision. What's the connection? Yeah, WandaVision does flow into Spider-Man 3, but it's the Spider-Man audience that you want to have the sudden appearance of Tobey or Andrew Garfield or something like that. It's not in WandaVision. So, listen, is it possible? Of course it's possible. Would it get a huge reaction? You're absolutely right, Danger. That would check that box off. It would get a huge reaction. But would you get a much bigger reaction if it was actually in Spider-Man. And honestly, what's the narrative? What's the narrative? Like, with the whole theory that Reed Richards is going to show up as the engineer, true or not, there's a narrative purpose there for that, right? The engineer who could have conceivably built a vehicle that might have been able to go into the Hex. There is a character in the Marvel universe who could do that. That's Reed Richards. And therefore, there would have been, if they had gone that way, a narrative purpose and narrative connection. What's your narrative? Why does a Tobey Maguire show up in WandaVision other than a random, look, kids, look, it's Tobey Maguire, right? So it would get the reaction. I just don't know what the narrative purpose would be. Like Luke Skywalker showing up at the end of Mandalorian. That just wasn't some random thing out of nowhere. There was a narrative progression that led to that, right? The child sent out a signal in the universe. Ahsoka had told Mando that if he does that, it may be received by a Jedi who may then come and find him. And they set that up as a narrative. And then therefore Luke showing up, that big cameo wasn't just random. It had narrative purpose. I'm just not sure what how random it would feel if he did. Unless they come up with something, Danger. We still have 2 episodes left. Maybe they construct something. You never know, but it's absolutely possible. All right, War Doctor 10 writes, hey, John and crew. What is your favorite film soundtrack not done by a traditional composer? Mine would have to be the Tron Legacy soundtrack done by Daft Punk, who announced their retirement on Monday. Thanks. So yeah, you're talking soundtrack, not score. Because, there's score, which is the orchestral music that accompanies the film. Then there's the soundtrack, the songs they drop in to play at certain points in the movie. Favorite soundtrack? I've been saying it lately. I seriously might have to go back. Well, there's 2 that really come to mind. One is the original Mortal Kombat soundtrack. That original Mortal Kombat soundtrack is awesome. And I'm not just talking about the main theme isn't even like the 3rd or 4th best song on that track or on that CD. That's how far back it goes. I'm talking in terms of CDs. But I mean, the main theme is great. Mortal Kombat. That's great and everything. But there's a bunch of tunes on that soundtrack that are just awesome. Also, and this may be a little stereotypical, but the Matrix soundtrack is incredible. The Matrix soundtrack was incredible. I love that soundtrack. Yeah, I love that soundtrack. Anyway, next up. Joe Sanchez writes, hey, John, been watching WandaVision just like everybody else, and the Agatha reveal wasn't overly surprising, but it was done well. No idea what the last 2 episodes will hold, but I'm still hoping a bigger villain is at play, just so my mind can be blown, LOL. Well, listen, there's a lot of things they can do narratively to blow our minds without there being a big reveal, right? Like, you look at shows like Battlestar Galactica, and they didn't need some new character to pop in and go, blah, I'm the Cylon King, right? They just did it through story and story discoveries and things like that, rather than, hoo-ha, Al Pacino, I'm Mephisto. Like, they didn't need that in order to make their big moments. And I don't think they need that to make a big moment in WandaVision. But they might. Whether it's Al Pacino showing up as Mephisto, or there's some rumors that it could be Keanu Reeves showing up as, that's a possibility too. They could, and it could be a both and situation. I don't know, Joe. We'll find out. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, how's this for a title on the 3rd Spider-Man film? One More Day. Hey, it would sure get people talking. I'm missing the relevance of what it is you're saying, Ryan. Sorry about that. I'm sure One More Day is totally associated with something that is just missing my mind right now, but I don't know what it is, unfortunately. All right, next up. Homelander's Doppelganger writes, in Spider-Man Far From Home, where did we go? Oh, there it is. In Spider-Man Far From Home, Peter, his friends, and the teachers are watching the news of the water elemental. Teacher says to the other teacher, what do you think it is? The other teacher says, I'm a man of science. So witches? WandaVision reference? Maybe. Because remember, the thing about your theory that works there, and by the way, Holland Love sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Holland. Appreciate that, man. You got to remember that Spider-Man Far From Home takes place 7 months after the events of WandaVision. Of course, the key thing here, though, is that understand Wanda isn't actually a witch. Wanda's powers aren't magical powers, right? She got her powers through scientific experiments being done on her by Hydra and Strucker, utilizing one of the Infinity Stones. That manifested in Quicksilver having his super speed and her having her hex abilities. So technically speaking, she's that, and also as of right now, she's not even known as the Scarlet Witch. Which I liked Rob's theory saying maybe the last 2 episodes is about her getting that moniker. That could be. So, but no, I don't think that was a reference to Scarlet Witch, but it would add up. If they do something in the next 2 episodes to kind of frame that, it could add up. You might be onto something there, Homelander's doppelganger. Let's keep our eyes on that. I like that. All right, next up, we've got Jolo Pineapples writes, "Hey, John and Rob, just missed Rob. I'm both excited and sad. Feige proved they have the talent and vision to do a compelling Dark Phoenix series. WandaVision robs all the redhead crazy spotlight. Is there even a remote chance they will ever attempt Claremont's storyline?" Well, here's the thing, man. There was no chance Kevin Feige was going to do Dark Phoenix anytime in the next 10 years anyway. Not with Fox just doing it. They're not just going to suddenly jump in and do the exact same storyline. Not to mention, Dark Phoenix is something that would have to come a little bit later anyway. So I don't think WandaVision is going to deter Kevin Feige from doing a Dark Phoenix story sometime in the future. But I do think it wasn't something that was going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years anyway. So but I think that has more to do with the fact that we just had a Dark Phoenix movie than it has anything to do with WandaVision. That's my thought at anything, J-Lo. We'll see where they go. All right. Guys, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to take the show long today. We're going to go a little bit longer than normal, but I am going to take just a short break. I have run low on my drink, so I'm going to go refill my drink, give you guys a chance to run and use the bathroom, talk amongst yourselves. Don't go anywhere, guys. We still got more questions to answer, and we will be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as I took a little bit of a break there, got my drink refilled. Let's go a little bit long today. Let's keep going here with the questions. I'm having fun. Next one up is Agent Cajun, who writes, and now for something completely different. When Fantastic Four started in 61, I was in grade school. I was in middle school in 63 for Spider-Man #1. Johnny Storm and Peter Parker were everything to me and my buds. They were the first teen superheroes who weren't just sidekicks. That's actually a good observation. I feel like I'm in my 4K pet comp. I feel like I'm in my 4K pet comp trying to salve one mo bit for another flag. By the way, I'm Wanda's. Okay, I'm sorry, dude. I tried, Agent. I'm sorry. I apologize. I tried. But yes, good observation. Going to the first one you put in there. Yes, it was really cool when you look back at that era about the novelty of what Spider-Man, Johnny Storm, and all those kind of characters were. And you hear actually Stan Lee talk about those things too a lot. When you go back and listen to old Stan Lee stuff, particularly when he talks about the origin of Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff, that's really good. That's really good. Anyway, sorry I couldn't get to the second part. I'm sorry, I tried. I didn't know where you were going with that, man. All right, Luke1234 writes, what is your favorite weather or time of day to watch movies? I love watching movies on a rainy day or after 11 p.m. I could only imagine the joy you had watching Star Wars or playing World of Warcraft in Canada during a snowstorm. Oh, dude, listen, seriously. I know this sounds like a very stereotypical Canadian thing to say, but winter is my favorite season. It really is. And I know that sounds very Canadian of me to say, and I love living in the LA area. Don't get me wrong, I do. And there's a lot of great things about the weather in LA and all that kind of stuff. But there's something to me about the winter, about walking outside after a night's snow, and the world is fresh and the world is clean, and it's like there's a clean slate. It's almost like a visual analogy of there being a clean slate. Now, I say that, of course, in deference to the fact that I understand there's some people in the U.S. right now who are not used to winter, that are dealing with a lot of BS, especially our brothers and sisters down in Texas right now. So understand, this is just something I've said my whole life about winter. I'm not trying to be insensitive to what's going on anywhere else. But for me, I've always said for my whole life that winter, something I love stepping outside, that first step outside and breathing in that cold, crisp air. And I just love it. I love winter so much. And that's been one of the big drawbacks for me living in LA is that I never get winter. Don't get me wrong. I don't want 12 months of winter. You know, I'm not moving to Alaska. I don't want 12 months of winter, but I really do miss it. And yeah, there's something really cool about cuddling in on a, when you look at outside and there's a big blizzard outside and you're cuddled in and you got, you know, you're playing either Warcraft or you're watching a movie or something. It's a pretty good feeling. I do like that. All right, next up. Let's see. That was Luke1234. Next. John Campea is my girlfriend's hall pass writes, 1 of 2. If it ends up not being John Krasinski, I feel bad for whichever actor plays Reed Richards when Fantastic Four is actually introduced. Fans will shun and criticize the actor from casting the announcement until the movie releases. At the same time, I'm happy for the praise and glory it'll be bestowed upon them after the movie is viewed by the public, and all the naysayers will eat their words as they portray the most fantastic version of the character possible. In Feige we trust. Oh no, it's true. Listen, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. Whenever they do announce the casting for Fantastic Four, let's assume for a second that it's not going to be John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. There will be an initial sense of disappointment from people because people have gotten so invested in the idea now of John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. They've gotten so invested that for some people it's difficult. I even read like one of the comments on one of my videos yesterday. Somebody went in and wrote, if it's not John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, I'm not watching the next Fantastic Four. It's like, well, that's very open-minded. But that's the thing. We get so hardcore attached to our theories. And let's face it, we've all been guilty of this. so hardcore invested in it now that they will refuse to watch it if it's anybody but those two, which again is hyper close-minded. But I believe there will be some initial disappointment. And then if it's a good casting, people will then adjust to it and be okay with it. And then they'll say for a while, I would have loved to have seen John Krasinski in the role, but it's cool. Like, think of me with Batman, right? I want Ben Affleck as Batman. That's my Batman, is Ben Affleck. And I was very disappointed when I realized Ben Affleck was not going to be playing Batman again. But you know what? Robert Pattinson's a great actor. So yeah, I feel disappointment that it's not Ben Affleck in that movie, but Robert Pattinson's a great actor. So, and Matt Reeves is a great director. So I'm sure it's going to be great, and we'll look forward to seeing it. But yeah, of course, still, and I think that's going to be the reaction for a lot of people if and when they announce that somebody else is playing Reed Richards. You're going to get some people going, I wanted John Krasinski in that. And then they'll go, but you know what? So-and-so is great, whoever it is they pick, and I'm sure they're going to do a great job. And then, the movie will come out and everything will be fine. So I agree with you, JC. I think there will be disappointment, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as you think. I think even initially there'll be disappointment, and then people will adjust to the idea. Not everybody. There will be still some people who will go, I'm not seeing this movie if it's not John Krasinski. Yeah, there are going to still be some of those, but I think for the most part, the fan base will go, okay, yeah, we want a Krasinski, but it's not him. All right, I think it's still going to be good, and then we'll move forward. At least I hope that's the way it'll be. All right, next up, we got Michael C. who writes, hi, John, no question. I've been enjoying your content since the AMC days and have never sent in anything. Well, thanks for being along for the ride for that long, Michael. I just wanted to say thanks for what you do. I really enjoy the show. You, Rob, and everyone involved with the John Campea Show are awesome. Oh, man, thank you so much. Well, and again, first of all, thanks for being along for the ride for so many years, man. I really do appreciate that. And it's always really nice when somebody wants to write in something just to say something encouraging. So thank you, man. You guys don't know how much it actually means to me. It really does mean a lot. So honestly, from the bottom of my heart, Michael, thank you so much for that message. I appreciate it very, very much. All right, next up, War Doctor 10 writes, hey, John and crew. The 122822 on the license plate at the beginning of WandaVision Episode 7 is a nod to Stan Lee, whose birthday is December 28th, 1922. Have you found any other Easter eggs on the show? Oh, probably. First of all, I didn't realize that one, Ward. I didn't know that one. I never caught it, and I haven't heard anybody else say that. That's a great one to know. So thank you for pointing that one out to me. I didn't know about that. I'm sure there have been several things through the show where I've gone, oh, that's such, but I don't remember them off the top of my head. But that's a really good one to know. When I go back and watch the show again, War Doctor, I'm going to keep my eye open for that and look for that one. Thanks for sharing that one. I'm sure probably a lot of people didn't know about that one either. All right. One Pat Ojo writes, hey, John, have you noticed that they have mentioned Ultron several times in the show? Yup. I sure have. And every single time an episode of WandaVision ends, Disney Plus recommends to watch Age of Ultron. I was saying that to Anne the other night. Like, when it ends, the next recommended thing is Age of Ultron. I totally have noticed that. Am I believing in a James Spader cameo now? Maybe it's Hayward's plan. Greetings from Guatemala. Well, thank you for writing that in. And look, a lot of it's been saying, remember, I showed on the John Campea Show, somebody made a sketch for me of Ultron as the mailman. Hi, Wanda, and it's Ultron. I've said, like from episode 2 or 3, I won't be surprised if Ultron does pop up. Again, it's not a part of my prediction, but I won't be shocked if Ultron shows up, because you're right, they keep mentioning him. Now, of course they mention him. He is very central to the events that brought us Wanda and Peter in the first place, but still, he keeps getting mentioned. Just like I won't be shocked if Aaron Taylor Johnson doesn't actually show up. I mean, I still think there's a possibility of that too. So I don't know. But I will say, Pat Ojo, I don't think you're crazy. All right, next up. Murray Reich writes, and tips in like $20. Thank you, Murray. I appreciate that, man. Let's see. Movie theaters in New York City are finally reopening, baby. On March 5th, I'm so excited. I used to hate to go all the way to Long Island or New Jersey in hour-plus traffic both ways. This is awesome news. Now, big movies can come out soon. Can't wait to go back to the Empire 25. Man, no, seriously, it's great news. Now, it only remains great news if people continue to act responsibly. You know? Don't get into massive crowds of people unprotected. Wear a damn mask. Get tested. You know, get insulated when you have the opportunity to do so. It's still going to be a little while before I'm able to do it, but, you know, when you can, do. If people act responsibly, we will get through this. Now, if theaters open and then we all just act like idiots again, well, then we're going to be right back to where we were a few months ago. But hey, Murray, I'm not going to lie. It is great news. I love seeing this happen. I love this development. I'm hearing it's going to happen in Los Angeles again soon as well. And so hopefully we are at the beginning of the end. Hopefully we are now at the beginning of the end of this thing. So we're still months away, but it's a good sign nonetheless, Murray. It's a good sign nonetheless. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, as everybody binges The Muppet Show on Disney Plus, keep in mind that the show was still insanely popular in season 5, but Henson voluntarily ended it just because he thought it was time to move on to things like The Dark Crystal. The man was a true artist. Yeah, I'm not old enough to remember what ratings were like for The Muppet Show, so I don't know that that's true. But if you're right, that does say a lot about Jim Henson. It does. He was truly... He was one of those rare things where he was great at his art, but also great at his business. He really was a triple threat. And a lot of people aren't great at both. You're either great at business or you're great at the art. That's why you often need partnerships. But Jim Henson was a guy who was great at the art and great at his business. And God, I just love any opportunity for somebody to bring up The Dark Crystal. Oh, I love The Dark Crystal so much. All right, MD writes, Disney Plus Star launched today in the UK, and oh boy, does it make a big difference. Also, the shows are all on the main startup page. You have to set up parental controls for kids. Also, we got a COVID update, and cinemas will stay closed until May 12th. Cries. Well, listen, every place is different. And who knows, maybe keeping them closed till May is the right thing. But also remember, just because they announce they're going to stay closed until May 12th doesn't mean that if good progress gets made, they may change it. Right? We may change it. Now, I'm still not completely up to date on how Star works. My understanding is that Star is basically Hulu. That Stars will basically carry all the content that would be on Hulu, because Hulu is not in a lot of places. So that's my understanding. I got to look it up to get more of a sense of it. But yeah, if you are now getting all the content that's on Hulu, including all the FX stuff and things like that, then that's great. And the fact that it's all built right into the main interface is even better. I kind of prefer that. I wouldn't mind at all if they just kind of merged Hulu right into Disney Plus. I would kind of be all for that, to be honest with you. I won't lie, but maybe I'm not understanding it right. All right, next up, Pelican Mike writes, John, I've tried not to theorize too much and just let the show happen. And I'm not saying I believe this, but how about this idea? Nightmare is the villain, but he's being played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. The form of her brother would be Wanda's nightmare. Whoa. Hey man, I've heard crazier theories. I mean, because remember, in one of the previously on WandaVision, in one of the previously on WandaVision things, they actually showed Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver, right? Which is kind of like, don't forget what this guy looks like. So is it crazy to think that maybe, just maybe, we could see, like I said, I'm not going to be surprised at all to see Aaron Taylor Johnson pop up. But could he pop up as something else? And yeah, tell you what, Pelican Mike, that theory's not bad. That theory's not bad. I don't know that that's going to happen, but if it does, I will completely remember that you said that, because that's actually a pretty good theory. I like that. Next up, Andy Hong writes, 1 of 3. Hey, John, I don't envy the Arrowverse episodes or executive producers at all. They have the arduous job of marketing C-level superhero, Superman, to their fan base and new viewers in their upcoming new show, Superman and Lois. How do they make this no-name character appealing? Well, here's the thing. Well, no, actually, let's keep going with this. Two, that's when I realized that if you want to successfully spin off this character, you could bring in the bigger and better original main character, Supergirl, in the pilot. They could show how much Supergirl overshadows her less iconic cousin, give him powerful speeches and life lessons, have her kick his ass and bitch smack him on his own show, and then get Superman to thank her for it, only for Supergirl to condescend and humiliate him even harder. Should the CW hire me, I'm clearly the Kanye of DC. Andy, listen, you always run a risk with me bringing up CW's piss poor attempt at doing Superman. Because yes, I am still bitter. I am butthurt ass still bitter that they turned Superman, the granddaddy of all superheroes, into nothing but a little sniveling jobber. I mean, and I've never forgiven them for that. I probably will never forgive them for that. That at every opportunity to humiliate and make Superman look less, CW would never pass up an opportunity to make Superman look less than. And it was always in the service to the Supergirl character. Right? How can we make Supergirl look good? Humiliate Superman. Always have her best Superman. Every single time, no questions asked. Always, and then that's not even enough. When Superman is suggesting he's going to leave, make sure, have Superman say, we haven't humiliated Superman enough. Have Superman say this. And I kid you not, they had Superman say this. The world doesn't need me, Kara. They've got you. You're the world's hero. It doesn't need me to be here. That's what they had Superman say. All right. So if people are wondering, gosh, I wonder why we're not getting a lot of attention for this Superman show, because you turned Superman into a sniveling little jobber already. You already ruined this Superman, the granddaddy of all superheroes. And you can job other superheroes. That's fine. Actually, sometimes it can be very narratively effective to job superheroes, but you do not job the Trinity. You don't job Superman, and you don't job Wonder Woman, and you don't job Batman. You don't job Superman. And I'm sorry. I know whenever this comes up, I go off on a rant, but I'll stop. I promise I'll stop. So, and then people look at me and wonder, it's like, John, you have historically liked the CW shows, and you love Superman. Why aren't you watching? Why aren't you excited for this new Superman and Lois show? Because this ain't Superman. This shell of a character they made, that ain't Superman. They can call it Superman if they want, but they clearly don't treat it like Superman. And if it don't walk like a duck, and it don't quack like a duck, and it don't smell like a duck, it ain't a duck. This does not look like, sound like, or act like Superman. It ain't Superman to me. Because they already turned this thing into a sniveling little jobber. Anyway, sorry, I gotta stop. And for all I know, this new Superman and Lois show might be the best show CW's ever done. And that may happen. I'll be shocked if it is, but if it is, I'll be pleasantly shocked. And I will wait for you guys to tell me that it's awesome. But until I hear from a whole lot of you guys that you think this show is awesome, it is not going to get any time of my day. None of the time from my day am I given that show. Until you guys tell me you think it's something special. And if you do, I'll try it. Anyway, let's see. Admiral Ozzel was a spy, writes, hey, John and Kimberly. Well, Kimberly is not here. This is not a companion video. Kimberly's usually here for those. What exactly was Luke Skywalker's plan in Return of the Jedi? If Jabba had accepted Luke's initial terms, would he really have traded R2-D2 and C-3PO for Han? No, I think it was pretty clear that he fully anticipated Jabba was not going to accept the deal, thus making Jabba feel like he was in control when really that was part of Luke's plan all along. He had stashed the lightsaber with R2. He knew that for his high profile, high valued victims, he likes to take them out to the Sarlacc pit. And it was all coordinated and set up. Now, if Jabba if they happened to catch Jabba on a day where Jabba was reflecting on his life and Jabba was feeling like, you know, I'm going to try to be a better Hutt. And Luke shows up and says, I want to barter your magnificence, Jabba. And Jabba thinks, you know what? I don't need any headaches from a Jedi. I don't need the headache of having a Jedi pissed at me right now. So you know what? Fine, Jedi Skywalker, go ahead and take your friend Han. Now, I'm sure if that had happened, Luke probably would have been, okay, cool, taken him out, and then probably had a plan B for getting R2 and C-3PO back at some point, but I think he just always foresaw that that's the way it was going to go. That's my guess at any rate, Admiral Ozzel. Good question. Next up, Friday Night. Tips in $20. Thank you, Friday Night, for supporting the channel on that level, man. One of two. Peace, John. You mentioned that you bought a new lens a few shows ago. If it's one thing you're using now, if it's the one you're using now, then what's the name and is it compatible with both Sony a6600 and a7 III? And ND, I don't know what that means. A thank you to you and the team for daring to be different in a sea of the same. Well, thank you so much for that, Friday Night. Yes, so the lens I am using right now, the camera I am using right now is a Sony a6400. Now, the whole Sony A line takes what's called E-mount lenses. That's the letter E. E-mount lenses. And the A7s also take E-mount lenses. So this particular lens is a Sigma 15 millimeter, although it might be 16 millimeter. It might be 16. I think it's 15. Anyway, this particular lens is a Sigma E-mount, 16 millimeter or 15 millimeter, 1.4 aperture lens. It's a beautiful lens. I love this lens. It's fantastic. Now, I have others as well. I have this, and it's all the Sigmas. All my prime lenses right now are the Sigma E-mount lenses. I have 30 millimeter ones. I have 50 millimeter ones. This particular one right now is a 15 or 16 millimeter one. And yes, it is compatible with all the A-list. The 6600, the 6300, the 5400, they're all E-mounts. Now, the one difference with the A7 III is that while it does take E-mount lenses, the A7 III is what's known, if I'm not mistaken, the A7 III is a full frame camera, whereas the A66, 64, 63, 6000 cameras are not full frame cameras. Like this Sony a6400 is not a full frame camera. The A7 III and the A7C and all that kind of stuff, those are full frame cameras. Now, these lenses will still work on those. They absolutely will, but you will get a crop. I think a 1.5 crop is what you get, which is fine. If you still know how to distance your shots and everything, it's still fine. So yes, these lenses will work on those. Sorry, most of you didn't care about that, but I kind of like getting these tech questions. And I'm sure there was a part 2 there somewhere, but I don't see it yet. Okay, Alex Phillips writes, me and my girlfriend just finished watching Netflix's Behind Her Eyes. I'm not familiar with that one. Jesus, that's the best storytelling I've witnessed in the last year. If they don't get an Emmy, then the system is rigged. I've never even heard of it. So what's it called? Behind Her Eyes. Let me look this up for a second. Behind Her Eyes. Netflix. Okay, what is this? Behind Her Eyes, a single mother enters a world of twisted mind games when she begins an affair with her psychiatrist boss while secretly befriending his mysterious wife. Okay, sounds all kind of twisted. I'm in. I'm going to check this out. I've never even heard of this thing before, Alex, because Netflix is terrible at promoting their own shows. I've never even heard of this, but you've sold me. I'm going to check this out. This sounds interesting. Thanks for putting it on my radar, man. And apparently it just came out last week. So it just came out last week. Thanks for the recommendation, Alex. I'm going to check this out. Thank you for that. All right. David Jeffrey writes, hey, John, I have a tech question. I want to get a new MacBook. Should I get the 13-inch with the M1 processor or wait for the upcoming 16 with the MX1 or the M1X processor? I mostly browse the internet, watch Netflix, and edit videos. Thanks. P.S. Go Oilers. All right. So I just ordered a MacBook Air M1. So with the new M1 chip, not for myself, I ordered it for Ray because he does all my graphics work, and he's working on an 8-year-old laptop right now. So I just bought him a new one, and I'm dying to see the performance of it because it's supposed to be great. Here's the thing. If you mostly browse the internet and consume content like Netflix, and you do a little bit of light video editing, I think just the M1 that's out right now is great. It's great. From all the numbers I've seen, it's great. Particularly if you use Final Cut Pro. But I believe Adobe just put out a beta version of Premiere that is made for the M1. So it's been optimized for the M1. So but especially if you use Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve or Adobe Premiere, you should be good. But if you do like light video editing and mostly consumer stuff, or like you consume a lot of content, I think the M1s that are out right now would be great for you. And I wouldn't even get the Pro, just get the Air. Just get the MacBook Air with like maybe up the RAM. I think the base model comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM. I maybe upgrade that to 16. It's incredibly efficient RAM. And yeah, I think you'd be good to go for that. Now, if you are literally editing hours of video every day, you might want to wait to see what the M2 or the M1X offers in a couple of months. Actually, I have no idea when those are coming out. But otherwise, if you just, edit a couple of videos a week, whatever, I think the new M1 is perfect for you. So again, sorry to get into the tech. I like tech. Sorry, guys. I'm a big tech guy, so I really like when people ask some tech questions too. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, David. All right. Edward Wells writes, yes, New York movie theaters open early March. Get to see Kong vs. Godzilla properly on the big screen. Dude, after that Kong vs. Godzilla trailer, there is no way that I am not watching that on the big screen. No way I'm not watching that on the big screen. Hopefully, I'll get to watch it in Los Angeles, but if I got to make the 3-hour drive to Las Vegas to go see this properly on the big screen, then damn it, that's what I'm going to do. I hope you're able to get that experience as well, Edward. All right, but make sure, do it safely, though. Do it safely. Some guy writes, I agree with you on Ben Shapiro. Film is not a vessel for politics, whether it's left or right, but I ask you to give their first film, Run, Hide, Fight, a try. I was ready to hate it, but I had a good time. The worst that could is that you're right. I have no desire to watch it, just because I know a few people who did and they all hated it. So I'm like, why would I? Listen, I am so far behind, particularly on a lot of TV stuff, that why would I bother wasting my time on a movie that most people I know who've seen it said it absolutely sucks? That doesn't mean it does absolutely suck. Maybe you like it, maybe other people's like it, and that's great. But I mean, I've got some people who my taste generally fall in lines with, and they did see it and they really didn't like it. So I got things that I haven't seen that everybody loves that I need to get caught up on. So I'm going to put most of my attention there. So that's just me. Now, if I hear from a million people that other movie is really great, fabulous, but I haven't. That's the problem. I just haven't. So I've got too many good things that everybody seems to love that I haven't started watching yet. So I gotta focus my time on that. All right. But thanks for that, man. I appreciate it. Zaid Habjoka writes, hey, John and Rob. We just missed Rob. In a previous episode, you said that it is likely the Spider-Men, Toby and Andrew, to appear in Doctor Strange. Oh, I never said it was likely that they appear in Doctor Strange. MVO, a Multiverse of Madness. But wouldn't their appearance in Spider-Man 3 solve the pickle in Spider-Man 2, Peter's identity exposed? Thanks, and keep it filthy. I mean, that could be. I don't think it's likely they show up in Doctor Strange 2. Let's just be clear about that. I think it's possible they show up in Doctor Strange 2. But honestly, there are 1,000 ways they can fix that pickle with Peter. There's 1,000 ways to fix that. You can just have the government come out and say, no, we investigated. He's not Spider-Man. They can just get a Skrull to do something, to make Peter in 2 different places at once. I mean, there's a million ways to do it. But yeah, you are right. Say that would be one of them. Again, there is no confirmation. Everybody's just acting like Toby and Andrew is a confirmed thing in Spider-Man. They're not. Just be very clear about that. It has never been confirmed by anybody official. that Andrew or Toby appear in Spider-Man 3. I believe they are, but again, there's no confirmation of that, so we'll see. We'll see where that goes. All right, next up. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, in the MCU, Loki had his chance to say, that's how it feels when Thor got smashed by the hands of Hulk. Now, somewhere out there, Stark can think the same, as he was under Wanda's spell in Age of Ultron, and now she by Agnes. Ah, the irony. No, she's not under Agnes's spell. See, that's the thing. I've had a bunch of people say, but John, at the end, you could see the purple smoke around her. She put Wanda under a spell. I don't think she put Wanda under a spell. She just let Wanda see what had happened. She was showing Wanda something. She was showing Wanda how she had been behind it all along, that it was Agatha all along. And again, I still think a part of that might be Wanda orchestrating all of it, but we'll find out for sure in the next couple of episodes. But yeah, there would be a little bit in there, Russell, of how do you like that medicine, huh? How do you like it, huh? Not so fun, is it? There would be a little bit of that. And I would love to hear what Tony Stark's snarky remark would be. It would probably be pretty fun. All right, next up. George Kofos writes, hey, John and Co. from Greece. Hello, George. Big fan since the AMC days. One of the details from WandaVision episode 7 not discussed is how the interviewer's voice that interrupts Wanda is not Agatha's or Peter's. Is that not a clear indication that she is working with somebody else? No, I think it just means it was an altered voice. I don't think it means anything, because we see it was her sitting in the chair. So probably just what that means was a little, but if you really go back and listen to it again, it sounds like an altered voice, didn't it? Like, that was my first thought when I was watching it and that played. I'm like, that sounds like it's an altered voice a little bit. At least that was my thought at the time. So maybe yes, George, maybe no, you might be onto something, but my first impression as a fan was just that it was an altered voice, so it didn't shock me to see Agatha sitting in that chair. That doesn't mean you're wrong, though. That doesn't mean you're wrong. So let's see if they expand on that a little bit more moving forward. Frankie Gouge writes, anybody that likes Doom Patrol or similar should give The Watch on AMC Plus a try. It does peg the weird shit-o-meter. I've never even heard of The Watch. What is The Watch? Where is it? On AMC. The Watch on AMC. What is this? I can't even find it anywhere. Oh, The Watch Season 1 trailer. There it is. I don't even know what that is. I am not familiar with it. I will have to go and check that out, Frankie. Thank you for putting that on my radar, man. Next up, Jose Salazar writes, one of two. Hey, John, hope you're having a great day. I am having a great day, thank you. Can't wait for the real Fantastic Four to make their debut. Do you think we will have to wait until the movie introduces them, or could there be mentions of the characters or even mention of the Baxter Building before the movies? Thank you. Well, I mean, mentioning the Baxter Building or something like that, you could do that. I mean, but it's not really introducing the characters. Listen, I, as much as anybody, have believed that it is a possibility that Reed Richards could be the engineer. But I was never fully believed that, because I kind of don't think they're going to actually introduce any Fantastic Four stuff until Fantastic Four. There may be references, there may be hints. I, as much as anybody, thought that, yeah, I mean, it could be Reed Richards. Because imagine the meltdown across the internet if they show up and John Krasinski is there as Reed Richards. It would blow everybody's minds. But, you know, we never actually really thought that would happen. We knew it was possible and it could, and the chances were there. But, I mean, it's so early in the process. I'm thinking, and I have no insider information. This is just me as a fan speculating, right? Just pure speculation. I don't think we're going to actually meet the Fantastic Four or members of it until Fantastic Four. Now, I say that, but I still think there is a slight chance that Reed Richards still does show up in WandaVision in the next 2 episodes. I'm not betting he does. I'm just saying I think there's a chance. So we'll see, Jose. We will see. All right, next up. Alan writes, hey, John, what do you think about Jack Black joining the cast of the Borderlands movie? This cast is looking amazing with Cate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart, and now Jack Black. I don't know. I mean, listen, I like Jack Black. I like him very much, but I have no idea who he's playing or what he's playing. But, you know, to see Kevin Hart and him re-team up again after Jumanji, sure, why not? I think Jack Black is a tremendously entertaining performer. So, hey, listen, it's never a mistake, Alan, to add talent. The one that really shocks me is the Cate Blanchett, because you guys know what I think about this. I think Cate Blanchett, other than Meryl Streep, is the greatest actress alive today. I think Cate Blanchett is the single most talented actress on the planet today, other than the Street Monster. So to get her in something like Borderlands, that's huge. Like, that is huge. And then Jamie Lee Curtis? Really? That also to me is really interesting. So this is shaping up very interesting. Let's see where it goes. All right, Nick from the ATL writes, "Hey, John. I have a theory that the big cameo in WandaVision will be Mahershala Ali as Blade. Everyone is talking mutants, which makes me feel like Marvel will throw a curve and actually set up vampires. Agnes's line about biting kids and all. Thoughts?" Well, listen, Nick, I'll tell you why that makes sense and then why I don't think it makes sense. Why it would make sense is this. They announced Mahershala Ali as Blade ages ago. Ages ago. Mahershala Ali is going to be 64 years old before they finally shoot a Blade movie. At this rate. So he's there. He's ready to go. It would be a big thing. Mahershala Ali and Blade. Here's the problem. There has been nothing in the show up till now. Like, Mahershala Ali showing up as Blade in WandaVision would feel completely random. It would feel completely random. Unlike a Pietro showing up, that feels like it fits in. Unlike if the engineer was Quentin Beck or Justin Hammer or Reed Richards, that would fit in. That makes sense. That fits in with everything that's been happening so far. Tobey Maguire showing up as Spider-Man would be totally random. Mahershala Ali showing up as Blade would be totally random. But they did announce him so long ago. At some point, you got to introduce him. So I don't know. I'm going to guess no, it's not going to be that. But I mean, hey, it would check off some of the boxes. So let's see what they do. Okay. Next up, Nathan Gendron writes, new WandaVision theory. Wanda will be up in the air, wreaking havoc when Professor X shows up. Magneto will then strap a bomb to his chest, grab him by the chair, and launch him right into Wanda's face. But Eric, boom, credits roll. I don't follow. I think that's supposed to be referencing something else, and I don't follow. But listen, I said before, right? I have contradictory thoughts. On the one hand, I do not believe they're bringing in X-Men characters yet. But on the other hand, I do think there's a chance Magneto or Professor Xavier do show up. John, those are two completely contradictory thoughts. I know. I admit it is. Those are two completely contradictory thoughts. Because you can't have Magneto or Charles Xavier show up and yet believe they're not doing anything to introduce X-Men for another 2 years. Those are contradictory statements, Campea. Oh, I know. I can't rationalize it out. But I still believe that Kevin Feige's not going to introduce mutants and X-Men for another 2 years. And yet at the same time, I believe a completely contradictory statement that there is a possibility that Professor Xavier or Magneto shows up in WandaVision. I can't explain why. It's totally contradictory thoughts, but there you have it. So that's where it is. All right. Next up, Jesse writes, one of two. I love the idea that Agnes isn't real, but my only counter is from what the actual show has told us is true. Every time we're outside the hex, the aspect ratio is widescreen, signaling to us that we're in the real world. When Wanda goes down to the basement, the aspect ratio changes to the widescreen format. That, as an audience, signals to us that she's no longer in her show, but that's what's happening is real, or maybe I'm just reading too much into it. No, Jesse, that's a good observation. That is actually a very astute observation. What I would counter that with is this. Is WandaVision the show within the show, has been changing formats all along as their era progresses. We went from black and white to color, for example, right? It could be that new changing of aspect ratio, I'm just saying it could be, that new changing of aspect ratio was the indication to the audience that we are now no longer in the 2000s, we're no longer in the 90s, we're now no longer in the 80s. From this moment on, with Wanda being in the basement, we are now in modern time. The fantasy of WandaVision is no longer in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. The changing the aspect ratio could have been a visual cue that, just like the moving from black and white into color, that we are now in current time. Now, you could, I think the odds, Jesse, the odds are that you're probably right. I think the odds are that you're probably right. But I'm just saying the counter to that could be that it could just be another visual cue that we've changed eras again. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. I think we'll find out tonight. I think we will find out on Thursday night. For me, it's Thursday night. For some of you, it's Friday morning. We'll find out in a couple of days. But I think that's a very astute observation by you, man. All right. Sanji writes, Disney Plus star. Where are we at again? I lost it. No, there it is. Disney Plus Star has been rolled out. UK, Europe, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And we now have access to the massive Fox library from Die Hard to Moulin Rouge and from 24 to Bones for just a little price increase. And with a parental age restriction for security, just wow. Listen, it's awesome. And again, I don't know the differences between Star and Hulu and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if you guys are now getting what we've always had, or if you guys are now getting something we don't have yet. So I got to look into it. But I'm very excited for you guys. Whenever I hear that my fellow film fans now have expanded entertainment, that's always good news. And I think that's excellent stuff. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, Sanji. All right, next up, Omar from the Bronx writes, Hey, John, I'm surprised that you and Rob haven't picked up on this. The genius of the Agnes character is that it provides a reveal for the casual fan, but dramatic irony for us hardcore fans, where we know what is happening, but the characters do not. Well, I mean, no, we've talked about that, actually. I think we've referenced that a couple of times. The other thing about the Agnes character, of course, is this. A lot of people, Agatha Harkness is not a popular comic book character, right? She's just not. So even though they've been laying on the massive hints that she's Agatha Harkness, a lot of people still never would even suspect it because they've never even heard of Agatha Harkness. Whereas somebody like me, I doubted she was Agatha Harkness because I thought they were making it too obvious. You know, the brooch, the name, the witch costume. It's a little too on the nose. She's not Agatha. Plus, on top of all that, we see the scenes where she looks legitimately scared of Wanda and all that stuff she was putting on. So I thought you combine that with the fact that they're just making it too obvious with all that evidence. But I wasn't taking into account, as some of you guys have so accurately pointed out, I wasn't taking into account, Campea, it's only obvious to you. A ton of people have never even heard of Agatha Harkness. And you're right. I really wasn't taking that in consideration. So there's a lot of different aspects from that. But again, I still question the nature of what is this Agatha Harkness character right now. I'm not saying I definitively know. I'm just saying I question it right now a little bit. That's all I'm saying, Omar. All right. Andrew Bootsma writes, Love the Wanda pregame. Thanks. I had a lot of fun doing the Wanda pregame show. I really did. I can't wait to do it again this Thursday. Thanks for being awesome. Cheers from Ottawa, and I love Ottawa, despite the fact that you guys got the Senators when really they should have gone to Hamilton, but hey, bygones. All right. Now, Mark Millar's Jupiter Legacy will finally release on May 7th. Am I the only one confused why Netflix would wait so long to release a show after buying Miller World way back in 2017? Hey, listen, these things take time. These things take time. I think a lot of fans, and myself included, we underestimate how long the process is from getting the rights to something, figuring out what you want to do, actually getting it together, then getting writers that you want to work with, having 5 different rounds of scripts being written, and those take a long time to write, getting a script to where you want it to be, then actually developing it, attaching the right talent, blah, blah. It can be a long process. It can be a very, very long process. And I think, we as fans, and again, I include myself in this, sometimes we really underestimate just how long and involved of a process that can be. Again, I saw the teaser for it, but it doesn't actually show anything. So I'm not excited about Jupiter's Legacy yet. I'm not excited about it. That teaser didn't do anything for me because it didn't really show anything. I'm waiting for a real trailer. Once we get a real trailer, maybe then I'll get more on board with it, Andrew. Thanks for pointing that out, man. All right, Lars Christian writes, and we just got a few minutes left here, guys. Lars Christian writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John, greetings from Norway. Greetings, Lars. In an interview Danny Glover did with Variety last summer, he alluded that the script for LW5, I don't know what LW5 is, would be Black Lives Matter centric. I believe that's a perfect framework for LW. Again, I don't know what LW is, unless that's another thing for Atlanta. And in line with the stories from the previous movies, guys, again, let me reemphasize again, please do not write in abbreviations. Write in what it is you're writing. So I don't know what LW5 is. Anyway, 2 of 2. If they play into rigs having some outdated ideas, oh, you're probably talking Lethal Weapon. Okay, with rigs. All right, guys, please. When you write in, don't write in abbreviations because we run the risk of me not knowing what you're talking about. Okay. If they play Riggs having some outdated ideas, that he enables bigotry, and in Lethal Weapon 5, he will learn how destructive it is. If it's done great, could this be the final step in Gibson's mea culpa redemption, and he'll really be back? Your thoughts? Well, 2 things. 1, I still don't believe a Lethal Weapon 5 is actually going to happen. I know, I heard Danny Glover and Mel Gibson and the director all say they want to do it, and they're working on it, and they've got a script. I know that. I still don't think it's actually going to happen. I don't think there's a big hunger. Now, I would watch a Lethal Weapon 5, but I don't think there's a big hunger out there for a Lethal Weapon 5. And I think the studio knows that. So that's why I don't think it's been greenlit yet. I don't know if doing something fictional repairs damage done to a career in real life. I'm not sure about that. Listen, there are some things. Mel Gibson's career has never been the same. It's amazing, actually, when you look back, that he even has any kind of a career right now after that. A lot of other people's careers would have been done by now. But I don't know that there's any, and I certainly don't know that doing a fictional story will change that. Again, I don't want to pretend like I've got a really clear idea about what it will or will not accomplish, but I don't know. It could be interesting, though, Lars. It could be interesting to see that. And again, if they did a Lethal 5, I'd be one of the first people in line to watch it. I just don't know that there's a real hunger out there for it. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up, Lars. All right, next up. Free Britney. Free Britney writes, so perhaps Mephisto is trapped in that book and Agatha has to feed on Wanda's power in order to release him. That's a common theory right now. And Pietro/Nightmare is working in conjunction with Agatha. Episode 9 ends with Mephisto being released and Wanda losing vision again, causing her to become the Scarlet Witch. Yeah, that's all kind of, that's the general theory. Maybe not all the specifics, but that's the general theory right now, right? That Wanda's going to lose everybody again. It's going to be the final thing that makes her crack. She kind of evolves into Scarlet Witch, more like in line with House of M and like Avengers Disassembled and stuff like that, where she's now a real danger to the world, and that there's another power at play, maybe trapped in that book, maybe siphoning out, feeding on Yo Magic, the shark commercial. That's the general gist. Now, I still think there are a few curveballs to come, but I think that you've just summed up pretty well there, Free Britney. I think you just summed up pretty well where the general thing is right now. All right. Charles Ayala writes, are you going to see Boss Level with Frank Grillo and Mel Gibson? Looks like Groundhog. We're just talking about Mel Gibson. Looks like Groundhog Day and Edge of Tomorrow. Also, have you seen Willy's Wonderland? It looks like Five Nights at Freddy's with Nick Cage as the main star. Well, we talked about, I haven't watched Five Nights at Freddy's yet, or I haven't watched Willy's Wonderland yet. But I remember we did talk about the trailer on the show a while ago. It looks like a no, it doesn't look like. It is a straight up Five Nights at Freddy's ripoff. All right, straight up. I got some. Sorry, last time I took a sip, a little bit of a fuzz bubble went up my nose. I was fighting off a sneeze for a couple of minutes. Okay, anyway, fuzz bubble. Hashtag justice for fuzz bubble. Okay, so it is obviously a complete Five Nights at Freddy's ripoff. It is a complete Five Nights at Freddy's ripoff. Absolutely, it is. And I am definitely going to watch Boss Level. I mean, this is a movie they've been trying to get made for years. I was still at Collider when we were talking about, hey, they're going to make this movie called Boss Level, and it's going to be this, and this. I was still at Collider talking about that news. That was years ago. And so, but yes, I will get around to watching it, and I will watch Willy's Wonderland, because even though it's clearly a Five Nights at Freddy's absolute ripoff, the trailer, it was a pretty fun trailer. It's a pretty fun trailer, so I will probably still watch it. All right. Charles also writes, I think the Yo Magic commercial was double meaning to let people know someone is feeding on her magic, but also that her magic couldn't save Vision no matter how hard she tried. Maybe. Love the show and stay safe, everyone. You know, yeah, there is something to that. Now, again, that Shark Yo Magic commercial was a complete departure from what all the commercials had been up until that point. All the commercials up until that point have been a reflection of the various tragedies in Wanda's life. Also, every commercial had that man and woman, which I still believe represents her parents. I don't know that. Just my guess. And then the Yo Magic commercial was the first one that didn't have those two people in it. And then they did pop up in the Nexus commercial. So there could be multiple meanings to that. I'm not sure, but you might be absolutely right about that, Charles. All right. Adrian McGraw writes, in the Black Widow trailer, Yelena mentions Taskmaster's Red Room and that keeps the assassins conscious but unable to control their actions. The Red Room sounds like the Red Hex. Kind of. Is there a connection, or am I reading deep into it as it's a 5-year gap prequel? I think you're reading too much into it, Adrian, but here's the thing. You're not crazy. The thing is, the way the MCU has done a lot of stuff is that every once in a while, the obscure thing that we're reading way too much into actually turns out being something. Not always. Not even the majority of the time. As a matter of fact, a very, very small minority of the time. But because it happens once in a while, it makes us think these things. So yes, Adrian, I do think you're reading way too much into it. But you're not crazy for doing it. That's the thing about the way they do the MCU. They are both true. So anyway. All right. Last question of the day, guys. Then we're going to wrap it up. So, John, you don't like preachy films. What about The Preacher's Wife, huh? I see what you did there. LOL, currently playing catch up with Man of Steel and, Superman versus Batman? Or you mean Batman versus Superman? I love Kimberly. You two have great chemistry. Get answered sooner via the CV show. Companion video show. Hi, Rob, Aaron, Kimberly, if you're there. Well, thank you so much. So for those of you who don't know, Kimberly, I needed help doing the companion videos because it's just me talking after doing the John Campea Show in the day, which goes 2 to 3 hours. Then trying to do a companion video later, it's rough. I need somebody else reading questions, and it gives me a break. It keeps the things moving faster. And, and then Kimberly availed herself. She said, hey, listen, I've been a fan for the John Campea Show for a long time. I think I'd be good at this. Brought her in, and she's been great. I've really enjoyed working with Kimberly, and I know you guys have enjoyed having her on the show too. So having her on those companion videos has been absolutely great. All right, guys. Holy crap, we went over 3 hours today. That will do it for me for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Guys, thank you so much for being here. To all of you for taking time out of your day to come and hang out for a bit of it with us here. Really appreciate it. Thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett for bringing his glory and greatness to the show. And of course, a special thank you to all of you guys who sent in these questions. Number one, because he gave us great fun things to talk about, but number two, because you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us here involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys very, very much for that. Now, I just do want to point out there are still more questions to come. We got War Doctor, Chris K, Mom Jeans. I love that name. Don't worry, guys. On tomorrow's John Campea Show, we will start off the show when we get into the live questions part. We will start off with those ones. That's where we'll start getting picked up from. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Remember to do the 4 main things, guys. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.